Chapter 1826. The Heaven-Wielding Bottle. The heaven-wielding bottle that Hanli sacrificed was incomplete and didn't have a spirit body. It only had an extremely simple ability. It absorbed the essence of heaven and earth and then matured life. It was very limited. For a cultivator like Hanli, it was indeed very useful. However, Wang Feng knew that the origin of this small green bottle wasn't simple. It was also very extraordinary. In the universe civilization that Hanli was from, this item was a supreme treasure that was born at the beginning of the universe. It had all kinds of powerful abilities and contained many Dao sage techniques. That form of the heaven-wielding bottle was the original form and also the most primitive. The heaven-wielding bottle that Hanli obtained was in that civilization's universe. After many exchanges and countless great powers and Dao ancestors fought over it, the spirit body and bottle body were separated. Wang Feng knew Hanli's story. Even if he didn't know, with his ability, he could even deduce the progress of that civilization. In other words, even if Wang Feng didn't know Hanli's story, he could still use the primordial origin. He could also use the primordial origin to deduce and calculate. Combined with the origin wheel soul, he could enter the river of time of the latter's universe and peek into the history and future. If this item was in my complete form, it would have the powerful ability to seize the fortune of heaven and earth. Wang Feng smiled. However, after countless years of erosion, the broken bottle body wanted to restore to its original state and become the profound heavenly treasure at the beginning of heaven and earth. It was impossible for Hanli's universe. Even if the bottle spirit and the bottle body combined, it would be impossible to become the profound heavenly treasure of that time. But Wang Feng could. Repairing the bottle body was very simple. Now, I just need to find a bottle spirit to create. Wang Feng slowly said. Master, do you have a suitable candidate? Yan Mengyao asked. Just create it. Wang Feng said indifferently, use the remaining spirit body to create a bottle spirit. This won't take much time. The bottle spirit was the ability of the heaven-wielding bottle. In fact, it wasn't easy to create one. This was because the existence of a bottle spirit required a corresponding ability. It couldn't just rely on pure ability. In fact, the original bottle spirit of the heaven-wielding bottle hadn't disappeared. Instead, it was drifting in the universe where Hanli was. It was very easy for Wang Feng to find it. However, this item could provide him with help, so it was better to create this bottle spirit himself. For now, let's finish repairing this thing. A lotus bloomed in Wang Feng's palm. A faint green light with a gentle luster slowly wrapped around the sky-wielding bottle that was surrounded by strands of faith power. This was something that Hanli had offered as a sacrifice and was an item of faith. The power of faith that Hanli had produced revolved around the heaven-wielding vial, giving it a mysterious aura. Yan Mengyao's eyes widened. Master's green lotus definitely has the power of creation. It can strengthen all the items of faith of the Master's believers. He wondered how much the heaven-wielding bottle would be enhanced. As the chaos green lotus trembled slightly, it completely enveloped the heaven-wielding bottle. The green light covered the heaven-wielding bottle's shadow. A gentle glow was gradually brewing within the green lotus. Let's use this time to create a bottle spirit. The bottle spirit of the heaven-wielding bottle was born with the heaven-wielding bottle at the beginning of the chaos. They possessed powerful remnant forces of primal chaos and possessed all sorts of wondrous techniques. Their intelligence was extraordinary. No, for Wang Feng, he could use the heaven-wielding bottle to deduce the mysteries of the bottle spirit. As a type of life, this kind of life naturally contained special primal chaos fluctuations. If it was placed in the transcendental God universe, it would be the genetic code of this life. And this genetic secret was beyond the transcendental God universe. They couldn't analyze it, but Wang Feng could. He took a purified soul from the infernal world and pinched it into the primal chaos origin. Wang Feng's eyes seemed to contain the mysteries of countless symbols of the universe. They flashed one by one, and the soul gradually formed the appearance of the bottle spirit that was compatible with the heaven-wielding bottle. The bottle spirit was something that the heaven-wielding bottle didn't need. Once it was, even if it was a complete heaven-wielding bottle, its effects would be greatly reduced. Several days later. Master, the heaven-wielding bottle seems to have been repaired. Yan Mengyao held the chaos green lotus with both hands and carefully brought it to Wang Feng. On the green lotus, a small emerald bottle that emitted the aura of primal chaos lay quietly on the lotus platform. It was about 2 sizes larger than before, but it still looked small. There were also many law patterns on the bottle. It seemed to have been repaired, but also seemed to have existed in the first place. Okay. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Then, his eyes flashed, and a small humanoid figure jumped out of the primordial origin source. First, they circled around Wang Feng and let out somewhat hazy cries of joy. Then it jumped in the void toward the heaven-wielding bottle on the lotus platform. Like a bird returning to its nest, it let out a soft chirp. The bottle spirit is still young. It still needs some time to be completely compatible with the heaven-wielding bottle. But now it can at least use 80% of its ability. Wang Feng threw the heaven-wielding bottle to Yan Mengyao. Take this thing and use it for the development of the ancestral realm. Go and test it, Wang Feng said. Yan Mengyao was stunned at first, then she nodded excitedly. She flew to the sky of the ancestral realm and pondered for a long time before scratching her head and saying, Master, how should I use this thing? Wang Feng. You're really arrogant, Wang Feng sneered. Is there no such thing in your records? You can't even use a treasure? There is, but there is no such thing. Yan Mengyao coughed a few times. Connect with the bottle spirit, and the heaven-wielding bottle will open. Wang Feng's eyes focused and he said slowly, It can drip down and condense a powerful power of law, which can nurture all things. As for the other abilities, you can discover them yourself. The development of the ancestral realm still needed a foundation. Wang Feng felt that it was still a bit slow to rely on the power of faith alone. To put it simply, the energy level of the ancestral realm was not enough. Wang Feng felt that it could still be mentioned. But if he used the power of faith, the concentration would only be at this level for the time being. According to the God realm of a heavenly God in the God system universe, when the heavenly God's power of faith reached a certain level, the border of the God realm would slowly stabilize, and the energy would also stabilize. And this was the bottleneck of the heavenly God. To break this bottleneck, there were actually many ways in the God system universe. For example, purchasing many decorations of the God realm in the God system universe. Most of these decorations were chaos treasures of many unit universes with mysterious abilities. Placing them in the God realm could drive the evolution of the God realm. Once the God realm evolved, the clan living in it would become stronger. Their upper limit would increase. But there might only be 1 or 2 chaos treasures in a unit universe. They were extremely rare and expensive. Chapter 1827. Many God factions in God system universes might need to spend an entire universe star field or even all the wealth of the faction to buy a few items to cultivate the God geniuses in the faction. Therefore, there were very few people who wanted to use this method to increase the strength of their God domain. Most of the gods couldn't break through and had to increase the strength of their God domain, so they could only use another method. That was to buy God domain treasures made by gods to increase the upper limit of their God domain. God domain treasures made by gods also had the ability to make their God domain stronger and evolve. However, there were many kinds of treasures and they were divided into countless types. One of them was related to a God system universe's special profession, refining treasures. As Wang Feng interacted more and more with the godly system universe, his understanding of the godly system universe naturally increased. The reason why he wanted to fix the sky-wielding bottle and create a bottle spirit himself. That was his purpose. He wanted to quickly build the ancestral realm into a more powerful civilization universe. You need to place the sky-wielding bottle in the ancestral realm and control its changes. Create sacred lands one after another, Wang Feng instructed. Sigh. His heavenly Tao was still too stupid. With Wang Feng's high hopes for the ancestral realm, it was difficult to rely on Yan Mengyao's wisdom alone. Oh, I understand. Yan Mengyao immediately understood. Go, go. Yan Mengyao copied Wang Feng and placed the sky-wielding bottle in her palm and gently threw it down. Change. Yan Mengyao giggled. The sky-wielding bottle became bigger and bigger, and it fell too heavily. Yan Mengyao seemed to be connected to the ancestral realm. She summoned the wind and rain, gathering the soil and then wrapping the sky-wielding bottle. Boom! The ancestral realm shook. From the sky, an incomparably majestic mountain suddenly fell down. Wang Feng looked at it and his face suddenly changed. The mountain transformed from the sky-wielding bottle was somewhat similar to a gourd. His face darkened. How did you turn the sky-wielding bottle into this? Wang Feng asked. It looks good. Yan Mengyao said, Master, don't you think so? Wang Feng looked at the sky-wielding bottle wrapped by the mountain and really wanted to flick Yan Mengyao like this. But that being said, however, this mountain was round and smooth, emitting a faint green light that was full of vitality. Wang Fengxin was startled. This was the center of the ancestral realm. Yan Mengyao wanted to connect the heaven-wielding bottle to the ancestral realm and use the changes in the ground to continuously transform the ancestral realm. He did have some ideas. The changes in the ancestral realm immediately confirmed Wang Feng's thought. The sky-wielding bottle was connected to the earth. Boundless energy flowed from the mouth of the bottle to the body, and along the ground, it began to nurture and nourish. In Wang Feng's eyes, countless spirit creatures began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. In fact, it could even give birth to all kinds of life forms. One had to know. Previously, the ancestral realm had been split open by Wang Feng's axe, so it wasn't that powerful. However, the ancestral realm was once a primeval world, or rather, the seed of a primeval civilization. It had the potential to endure all kinds of changes. Later, Wang Feng used the power of faith to expand the ancestral realm to accommodate the future civilization of the ancestral realm. However, the resources that were produced at the beginning of the world were only slowly accumulating inside the ancestral realm. For example, in the previous human tribes, the Qi people still needed to travel for several days and hollow out the entire mountain before they could collect some basic resources. This was the manifestation of a lack of resources. The power of faith expanded the borders of the ancestral realm, but the growth of the ancestral realm itself couldn't keep up. Although the energy was dense, it would take countless years to accumulate all kinds of resources. In this way, it was very difficult for the three major races of the ancestral realm to grow rapidly. Especially the Azura race. They were born powerful, and their postnatal cultivation required a lot of resources and a huge amount of life force. Wang Feng walked the path of creating high-quality life forms. He only created the 9 reincarnations and the connate life forms of the 9 major races. He didn't have the time to create the postnatal life forms of the ancestral realm alone. That was too much of a waste of time. Now, the heaven-wielding bottle could perfectly solve all the problems. Spirit creatures. It was a general term. Heaven and earth had spirit. Countless flowers, fruits, and vegetation, as well as countless shining and rare resources, were nurtured in all directions under the heaven-wielding bottle. With the heaven-wielding bottle as the center, the concentration of energy in the world increased several times. According to Wang Feng's calculations, the heaven-wielding bottle's radiation level was enough to cover most of the ancestral realm. It was as if the entire ancestral realm had undergone a major renewal and started to grow madly. countless towering ancient trees, giant trees exuding a desolate aura, and fields of flowers and fruits with incalculable grades began to grow in various parts of the ancestral realm with the appearance of the heaven-wielding bottle. They formed all kinds of landscape. In just a short while, Wang Feng felt as if the ancestral realm had changed into a different world. So powerful! Yan Mengyao couldn't help but exclaim. In fact, if her master came in person, the Chaos Lotus could do the same. But that would be a waste of her master's time. With the heaven-wielding bottle, the ancestral realm's current development could be considered to have entered a proper state. Next, now that I have the heaven-wielding bottle, I'll be able to create the 9 reincarnations after accumulating the power of faith for a while. The next path will be the spirit path. Heaven and earth had spirits, and they were divided into the 5 elements. The spirits of the 5 elements formed all things. The spirit path was related to the changes of heaven and earth. It controlled yin and yang and the 5 elements. It was an indispensable and powerful race in the ancestral realm. They controlled the power of the laws of the 5 elements. The amount of power of faith required was enormous. 100,000 points should be enough for Hanli to quickly ascend and dominate the entire cultivation world, right? Wang Feng pondered. Right, there seems to be no news from the South Mystic Celestial Sovereign. At the same time, on Mercury in another universe, Su Fan, who was the reincarnation of the South Mystic Celestial Sovereign in his previous life, wasn't completely silent. Instead, he secretly glanced at the messages in the chat group. However, he appeared to be somewhat confused. He had to admit that even as an immortal sovereign in his previous life, in the Godhunt prize pool, he had rarely seen anything worth 100,000 points. He had never even heard of it. In other words, most of the items in the prize pool in his previous life were mysterious and powerful. As the reincarnation of an immortal sovereign, he naturally didn't lack cultivation techniques, secret techniques, and divine abilities. Although Su Fan believed that many of the cultivation techniques, secret techniques, and divine abilities in the prize pool might be more powerful. But the points were too terrifying. What he cared about was something else. Chapter 1828. Su Fan looked at the prize pool and stared at the 100,000 points position. It was a treasure known as the Eternal Tracing Sand. Eternal Tracing Sand. This sand flows into the river of time and spies on the traces of people or things related to it. Find traces in the busy universe. Price, 250,000 points. It seemed to be of little value. Basically, the people in the group did not discuss this treasure. Most of them were talking about other things, such as divine abilities, secret techniques, sacred bodies, and supreme treasures. There were even people who desired the power of laws worth 1,000,000 points, 10 million points, and the origin of the universe worth over 100 million points. But in Su Fan's eyes, there was only this eternal tracing sand. With this item, Su Fan muttered, I might be able to find traces of Master. Even if there are no traces, as long as there is information, it will be fine. He remembered it clearly. The last scene of his master being taken away by that expert who called himself a god. The fact that he was able to be reborn on Mercury meant that he was thousands of miles away from the cultivation he had in his previous life. But Su Fan was confident that he would be able to reach his original height in a few hundred years. But even if he reached his original height, Su Fan could not think of any way to find his master. If I have this eternal tracing sand, I will at least have the possibility of finding my master. Thinking of this, Su Fan's mental state, which had experienced tens of thousands of years, could not help but become slightly excited. He had never heard of this eternal tracing sand in his original world. Although he had heard of methods and supreme treasures to find people, or perhaps he had seen them before. But he would definitely not be able to find his master. It was very simple. That god was too powerful. Su Fan knew that it was impossible to find those supreme treasures and methods in his world. The eternal tracing sand can flow into the river of time. Is this item really so miraculous? Can the vast and unknown river of time in the universe really exist? The river of time. There were many people who knew about it, and there were many meanings behind it. But no one knew what truly existed. Even if he had reached a certain level in his previous life, it was still difficult for him to touch the river of time in the universe. He had befriended a few immortal supremacies who studied the laws of time. They could slightly touch the river of time in the universe, but it was impossible for them to enter it. They could only change the flow of time in a local world. But if they wanted to trace the history and the future in the river of time, it was difficult to do so. My first goal right now is to replace this eternal tracing sand and see if I can find Master, Su Fan thought to himself. 250,000 points. If it was before Su Fan understood this chat group, he would feel a lot more. However, after learning more about it, Su Fan felt that it might not be too difficult. That Li Feiyu just joined the group and he already has 10,000 points. Su Fan muttered. Obviously, the source of these points was not as difficult as he had imagined. That Li Feiyu will definitely appear in the group. I'll wait and see, or maybe I'll ask him how he got those points. The people in the group seemed to be curious about this question. Su Fan returned his attention to the group chat. At this moment Li Feiyu appeared. In the chat group, Li Feiyu said, "Everyone, I'm here. I know you all want to know how I got my points, right? Fan Yi, Big Brother Flying Feather, Lord Flying Feather, on behalf of all the members of the group, I would like to ask you, how did you get those 10,000 points?" The God Hunt event had only just begun. They had just started their operation, and this guy already had 10,000 points? Who wouldn't be curious? She Ancient Emperor Jade said, Yes, yes. How did you get them?" Obediently waiting. JPG. Fan Yi said, "Little Jade, don't talk. I'll ask alone." She Ancient Emperor Jade. Li Feiyu said, "Cough cough, actually, it's not 10,000 points." Fan Yi. Everyone was puzzled. Li Feiyu said again, "Actually, there are 50,000 points, cough cough." She Ancient Emperor Jade. Borrow another 10,000 years from the heavens. Everyone can't betray me. Fan Yi. Ghostly said, 50,000 points? That's too much. 50,000 points. The group exploded again. What did 50,000 mean? Yi Fan thought for a moment. If he exchanged it for his own sacred physique, he could exchange it for 5. Well, in the history of this world, the number of sacred physiques of the ancients could be counted on one hand. When Wang Feng, who was peeping at the screen, saw this scene, he laughed. This Han Li is really cautious and steady. No wonder he chose the primal chaos spiritual route. Wang Feng was speechless. He had clearly obtained points. He directly lied about half of the points in the group. Obviously, he was afraid that the people in the group would covet his point. If it wasn't in the group, but in reality, Han Li probably wouldn't have said it. With the primal chaos spiritual root, the chat group, and this god as his backing, Wang Feng shook his head and thought, if it was an ordinary person, they would have stood up. However, the personality of these children of destiny didn't seem to change so easily. At this moment, in the chat group, Li Feiyu, actually, the way I obtained points is very simple. I just sacrificed a very ordinary thing to the ancestor god. The ancestor god was merciful. Perhaps because I just became a believer, he gave me 50,000 points as the starting point for my initial development. In the future, I will definitely work hard to develop the faith of the ancestor god. Fan Yi, like hell I'll believe you. Sacrificing a very ordinary thing, and the ancestor god will give you 50,000 points? No matter how benevolent the ancestor god is, it's impossible for him to be so benevolent. She Ancient Emperor Jade. I think so too. Everyone can't betray me. Young man, it's not nice of you to be so secretive. What? Do you think we'll covet your points? What a joke. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens, indeed. Little brother Feiyu, you are treating us as outsiders. We are all believers of the ancestor god. There's no need for us to care about your points. Taking 10,000 steps back, the ancestor god is watching us in this group. Do you think we will dare to act recklessly? Even if we dare to act recklessly, to be honest, we won't go to your world. Ghostly, Perhaps you have your own difficulties. Li Feiyu, bitterly smile. JPG. Everyone, I'm not lying to you. That thing is very important to me. I think it's a treasure, but to the ancestor god, it's a very ordinary thing. Fan Yi, roar. Now that you said it, we understand. That thing must be your golden finger, right? Did you rely on that treasure to become stronger? Li Feiyu, yes. Cold sweat appeared on Han Li's forehead. The people in this group were quite smart. He could guess it right away. As expected, the people in this group are all big shots from various worlds. I'm just a mortal, so it's better for me to keep a low profile. Han Li thought. At this moment, in the chat group, Fan Yi started to speak again. Chapter 1829. Fan Yi, then I understand. Let me analyze it. I think that if you didn't have that thing, you might just be an ordinary person now. But because of that supreme treasure of yours, you grew and became stronger. Without it, it might be difficult for you to improve in the future. It is your lifeblood, but you are actually willing to offer your lifeblood to the ancestor god. Even if this item is ordinary to the ancestor god, your sincerity moved him. Thus, he bestowed 50,000 points to you. Even if that treasure of yours might not be of any use to the ancestor god. Hearing this, Han Li was slightly stunned. In fact, this was what he thought in his heart. Otherwise, the ancestor god wouldn't have bestowed so many points just because of the small green bottle. This Fan Ye's reaction is really fast. Han Li thought. Truly extraordinary. He sighed in his heart. Now that he had obtained the primal chaos spirit root, he had greatly improved in all aspects. That was why his reaction was so fast. This Fan Yi. No wonder he could become a believer of the ancestor god. He even made the ancestor god personally send out powerful warriors to help him. It seems that I have to work harder in the future. Han Li thought in his heart. And Fan Ye's words caused the group to fall silent for a moment. Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. So it's like this. Could it be that treasure of flying feather is actually a damaged supreme treasure? It has some use to the ancestor god? I have a feeling that although the ancestor god is benevolent, he wouldn't be so benevolent. Otherwise, wouldn't this be breaking the rules? Fan Yi, little Jade, what you said makes sense. That is a possibility. But if it is such a supreme treasure, the ancestor god would have to spend a lot of effort to repair it. To be able to bestow 50,000 points, if this supreme treasure is really complete, it would be worth several 100,000 points. Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. If that is the case, the ancestor god would also calculate. Ghostly, but it wouldn't be so easy to repair. My soul-devouring staff can be repaired by the ancestor god to an immortal tool that surpasses this world in the blink of an eye. Even the ancestor god would have to spend a lot of effort to repair it. That is not something we can do. People can't betray me. You guys, it is disrespectful to talk about the ancestor god here. I think that the ancestor god have his own reasons for doing this. Borrow another 10,000 years from the heavens. I think that both factors are involved. It was 50-50. Flying Feather's supreme treasure is useful to the ancestor god. The ancestor god only gave him so many points on account of Flying Feather's sincerity. Fan Yi, Li Feiyu, funny face. JPG. If that treasure of yours is really a damaged supreme treasure, it will be of great use after being repaired in the future. Do you regret it? On the other side, Han Li smiled. He had actually thought of this possibility before. Li Feiyu said, "No, I think that treasure can be given to me. You can also give me points. You can also give me points that you can't give me. Why should I regret it? Moreover, my starting point is higher now, my cultivation speed is faster, and my strength will be stronger. Not only do I not regret it, even if that treasure is really mine, I will directly give it away because it is of limited use to me now. And in the future, I will have even more room for improvement." Fan Yi, your words make me feel that you are not an ordinary person. Good fellow. I knew that those who can enter our group wouldn't be weak. Let's not talk about it anymore. I want to see what I can offer to the ancestor god to exchange for some points to increase my strength. After that, I will scheme for the good things in the reward pool. After saying that, Yi Fan slipped away. Unfortunately, after looking around, he discovered that there was nothing to offer for now. After all, Han Li's situation was very special. I can't possibly offer myself as a sacrifice, right? Yi Fan stood on a mountain peak and sank into deep thought. Why don't I directly establish a sect? I will vigorously develop the faith of the ancestor god. In any case, in the eastern wasteland there is a lack of faith. There are only a few sects and sacred grounds fighting against each other. Alright, let's do it this way. This is the only way to accumulate points in a short period of time. Meanwhile, the others in the group also started to think of ways to obtain points. Mercury. Su Fan closed his eyes and recalled his experience of peeking at the screen. It seems that Li Feiyu's method can also be used on me? Su Fan seemed to have thought of something and suddenly opened his eyes. How did he reincarnate into this world? He stopped his consciousness in the depths of his soul. A fragment lay quietly in the middle. I found this fragment when exploring a certain desolate world. I tried countless methods and searched for the most ancient experts, but I still didn't know the origin of this fragment. Can't be destroyed or explored. When my spiritual sense entered it, it was as if I entered the vast starry sky. With a thought, Su Fan took out this fragment. I remember that I once spent 100 years continuously injecting immortal power into this fragment, but there was no reaction at all. Not even the slightest tremor. Su Fan murmured. The fragment in his hand was slightly greenish-black. It didn't have any markings and looked very ordinary. It was just like an ordinary bronze fragment. Later, I gave up and kept it in my soul. This special fragment didn't seem to be of any use, until… Su Fan's body trembled slightly. It was as if he recalled something. Until his primordial spirit was destroyed by that god's spawn and his soul was about to dissipate. This fragment faintly fluctuated, and then his soul fainted. When he woke up again, he was already on Mercury. It was this fragment that allowed me to escape a calamity and have a chance to reincarnate. This fragment must be extremely powerful. Su Fan pondered. However, he didn't understand much about this thing even when he stood at the peak of the universe in his previous life. How could he possibly understand it now? Su Fan didn't even think about it. To be able to bring his soul through space and reincarnate on Mercury, it was definitely a heaven-defying treasure. But in my hands it can only be equivalent to an umbrella at most. Moreover, the fragment is most likely useful because I spent 100 years injecting immortal power into it. Apart from that, it doesn't have much use in my hands. But even so, it's enough. To me, this item is the rarest item in both my previous life and this life. Su Fan murmured, if I sacrifice this item, I wonder if I can exchange it for points? After weighing the pros and cons, he thought for a long time. Su Fan decided to sacrifice this item. Unlike Li Feiyu, Su Fan skillfully built a simple altar and placed the fragment in the middle. Then, he began to chant the great Tao God summoning chapter. His will and soul reached a unified state in an instant. Su Fan was a supreme expert in the universe in his previous life. He didn't need to explore this like other people. Light was produced in an instant. Su Fan held his breath and looked at the light that seemed to be eternal and boundless. Chapter 1830. The more Su Fan looked at the light figure, the calmer he became. The fragment gradually disappeared along with the altar's light pillar. Su Fan swore that he had never seen such a majestic light figure. That kind of aura was even stronger than that of the god who brought his master. The eternal and boundless aura seemed to symbolize the birth and destruction of the universe, immortal and indestructible. Just from the aura emitted by this light figure, Su Fan knew that this ancestor god was definitely an unimaginably powerful existence. At this moment, he didn't have the slightest doubt in his heart. He waited quietly. Along with the fragment, it disappeared from sight. Finally, a brilliant voice resounded in his soul. I already know your origin. Great. I hereby bestow you 1,000,000 points. 3 protective divine lights can protect your world from collapse and collapse of the universe. Your body and Tao will not disappear. With a rumble, 3 divine lights descended from the light figure and sprinkled on Su Fan's body. At the center of his eyebrows, 3 fine golden lines formed. Immediately after, the light figure disappeared as if it had never appeared. The sky became calm again. Su Fan stood in place in a daze. 1,000,000 points? 3 protective divine lights. Unlike Hanli, Su Fan could feel 3 extremely powerful energies hidden in his body. What shocked Su Fan even more was that 1,000,000 points. That friendly Feiyu sacrificed his treasure, and the damaged one was only worth 50,000 points. My fragment. The ancestor god bestowed 1,000,000 points? Su Fan knew that the value of this fragment should be very high, but he didn't expect it to be so high. But at the same time, Su Fan didn't regret it. No matter how high the value was, that thing was too useless to him now. Back when he was an immortal venerable, he could only barely use it once after 100 years. Not to mention the current him. Also, it's impossible to repair it, unless I can reach the ancestor god's realm. Su Fan shook his head. Back then, when he was roaming the universe, he knew that sometimes, if he wanted to move forward, he had to give up some things. Only then would he have the opportunity to step onto a higher level. In reality, there was no free dinner. He understood the ancestor god's reward method. Not to mention, let alone 1,000,000 points. Even if it's 100,000 points, the things I can exchange for would be enough for me to reach the level of my previous life or even surpass my previous life strength. 1,000,000 points. I can even try to obtain the more powerful laws that I have never come into contact with in my previous life. Even the source energy is not impossible. Now that Su Fan had 1,000,000 points in his hands, his heart finally felt at ease. With so many starting points, when he grew up again, the speed at which he gained points would be even faster. Moreover, Su Fan had a vague feeling that the God Hunt event this time was meant to hunt down the invaders. It was very likely that they were similar to the god who had taken away his master in his previous life, as well as his clan. If that was the case, in this event, I will definitely get first place. Su Fan revealed a cold smile. Verbius was a name that carried an extremely arrogant and cold aura. Right now, I should first swap out the eternal tracing sand without hesitation. Su Fan directly exchanged the 250,000 points for the eternal sand remover from the prize pool of the God Hunt event in the chat group. In the chat group, ding. Nan Xian, Immortal Lord, has spent 250,000 points to exchange for eternal tracing sand. The system notification in the chat group rang softly. In an instant, everyone who was still discussing the prize pool instantly stopped sending messages. It was as if they were suddenly muted. Therefore, the messages stopped. 250,000 points? This number was too exaggerated for them who had just started the event. After a long while, someone finally sent a message. Yangon Pawn's waiter. F*CK, I'm finally online again. Why is it so quiet? It seems like there are two more newbies? Knock knock knock. JPG. Why aren't you guys saying anything? The waiter, who had not reached his limit for a long time, suddenly came online. He softly broke the silence. Fan Yi, waiter, don't say anything first. Let me calm down first. F***CK. 250,000 points? What's going on? I'm very confused right now. I need someone to wake me up. She ancient Emperor Jade, shivering. JPG. Are all the newbies so powerful now? Borrow another 10,000 years from the heavens. Let me calculate. According to the rules of points, killing an ordinary Xian Seed invader is worth around 100 points. 1,000 points for Desolate Seed, 10,000 points for Saint Seed, 100,000 points for Spirit Paragon. An ordinary demon that hasn't even reached the level of Xian Seed. Our great Qin Empire doesn't have any more believers of the Ancestor God. According to the strength of the believers, we can get anywhere from 1 to 10,000 points. According to the highest calculation, I have to kill at least 10 Spirit Paragon level invaders and 100 Saint level invaders. Or, I have to cultivate 100 more believers who are on par with the strongest person in our great Qin Empire. No matter how fast it is, it will take at least a few decades. How long has it been? So this is the Immortal Lord? Ingzheng lamented. The two words Immortal Lord were indeed not something that could be casually claimed. Can't betray me, they're quite strong. What's going on? We haven't even started and the two newbies have already become big shots? She ancient Emperor Jade. Ha 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 ha. Then Fan Yi, the waiter, and I will become salted fish. Crowdly. JPG. Fan Yi. Go away, I am not a salted fish. I have already established the Ancestral God School in the Eastern Wilderness and gathered a large number of believers. My points have already started to rise. After a while, I will respond to the Ancestral God's gift and expand my influence. Soon, my points will start to rise. The waiter of the Eternal Peace Pawn Shop. What are you guys talking about? She ancient Emperor Jade. Waiter, take a look at the group announcement first. I will explain it to you in detail later. Nanxian Immortal Lord Big Shot, can you come out and say something? How did you get the Ancestral God to give you so many gifts? I am very curious. Ghostly. I guess, maybe it's the same as Taoist brother Li Feiyu. This shouldn't be possible. I am just an ordinary cultivator. He is the Immortal Lord. He must have more treasures than me. Seeing this, Su Fan pondered for a moment. He had already obtained the Eternal Tracing Sand. He could use it later. There was no hurry. These group members are all believers of the Ancestral God. They will be allies in the future. Since they were invited into the group and became believers of the Ancestral God, it means that the Ancestral God recognizes them. It is not a bad idea to make friends with them. Thinking of this, Su Fan immediately sent a message. Nanxian Immortal Lord. Hello everyone. My name is Su Fan. I am the Immortal Lord. Let's not talk about it. Now I am just an ordinary person. I will start from the beginning. Crowdly. JPG. Fan Yi, an ordinary person? Damn, is he the Immortal Lord reborn? No wonder he is so strong. I admire him. Let's communicate more in the future. Li Feiyu, he must be a big shot with many stories. She ancient Emperor Jade. Reborn? How did the Immortal Lord become an ordinary person? Crowdly. JPG. Sorry, I seem to have asked something I shouldn't have. Su Fan's face darkened. Chapter 1831. Who was this Fan Yi? How could he guess it with just one sentence? He was just casually saying it. However, he didn't care if his secret was exposed. They were all believers of the Ancestor God. Su Fan believed that the secret of his rebirth couldn't be hidden from the Ancestor God. Or rather, He might have a close relationship with the ancestor god since he was invited to the chat group. Immortal Monarch Nan Xian. Cough cough, fellow Taoist Fan Ye's guess is very accurate. I won't hide it from everyone. I'm indeed reborn, but the reason is my private matter. It's not convenient for me to reveal it to everyone. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. I understand. Fan Yi, don't make wild guesses. Fan Yi. I'm just saying, Immortal Monarch Nan Xian. It's fine. If everyone wants to know the secret of the points. Actually, fellow Taoist Ghostly is right. I used the same method as fellow Taoist Li Feiyu. However, it's not convenient for me to reveal the item I sacrificed. Hearing this, everyone in the chat group was enlightened. I'm still not cautious enough. Han Li sighed. Look at the Immortal Monarch, he didn't say anything. 250,000 points. He's even more cautious than me. Conservatively speaking, he should have obtained at least 1,000,000 points. I wonder what kind of treasure he sacrificed. Ghostly, shame? Is that really the case? I'm ashamed. I'm just saying it casually. Immortal Monarch Nan Xian. Actually, it's nothing much. I also saw fellow Taoist Li Feiyu's method and was inspired. It's only 1,000,000 points. It's nothing much. I don't need to hide this from everyone. Fan Yi. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Everyone. Only 1,000,000 points. Yi Fan's mouth twitched. As expected of an immortal monarch. Although he's cautious, the boldness in his tone isn't something an ordinary person can compare to. Immortal Monarch Nan Xian. I still have something to do. I'll go first. If anyone has any questions or wants to discuss other matters, you can at me. With that, Su Fan went offline. To Su Fan, there was no need to hide the fragment. However, this thing was ultimately a gift to the ancestor god. Perhaps the ancestor god didn't want to directly say what it was, so Su Fan kept it a secret. After Su Fangang went offline. Fan Yi. Alright, let me analyze it. What kind of treasure did Dao friend Nan Xian sacrifice? First of all, it's not easy for a celestial venerable to become an ordinary person. I don't believe that a dignified celestial venerable became an ordinary person just to experience the mortal world and experience ordinary people. There was a high chance that they had their own difficulties and had no choice but to become an ordinary person. Also, he said that he was reborn. Judging from his tone, especially when he said Venerable Immortal is. Let's not talk about it, although it was just a text message, I could clearly feel that his heart was mixed with 30% helplessness, 30% pain, 30% sadness, and 1% confusion. To Shi Ancient Emperor's Jade. Good fellow. Fan Yi, you can even sense this? Are you a worm in his stomach? Fan Yi said, Don't interrupt. To Shi Ancient Emperor's Jade. No one in the world can turn their backs on me. Fan Yi, continue. I'm listening. Fan Yi continued, hence, the reason why this big shot was reborn must be because he is filled with hatred. Then, let's take a look at what he exchanged for. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. Eternal tracing sand. This thing doesn't seem to have much use. But 250,000 points is too valuable. If it wasn't for the ancestor god, I would suspect that the point requirement should be reduced by a 0. Ghostly. Actually, I feel that this thing doesn't require a lot of points. It might even be low. But it depends on who is using it. Li Feiyu. The eternal tracing sands function seems to be to find someone or something. It sounds simple, but it still needs to sink into the river of time. I don't know about other things, but the river of time is very powerful. Is there really such a river of time in this world? Currently, Han Li was only at the foundation establishment stage. No, to be precise, he was only at the core formation stage. He felt somewhat puzzled about this. It was a problem of vision. Fan Yi, it definitely exists. No, that's not the point. Think about it, if he doesn't exchange for anything else, even if he is an immortal venerable, he would be able to exchange for so many points. Even if he is an immortal venerable, 1,000,000 points should be enough to exchange for those power of laws, right? It's impossible that he doesn't want those things, right? But why did he switch to this thing at the first moment? What does this mean? He needs this thing to find someone or something that is extremely important to him. As an immortal venerable, logically speaking, it shouldn't be difficult for him to find someone or something. But he needs to rely on the eternal tracing sand in the reward pool issued by the ancestor god. This means that this person or thing is something that even an immortal venerable wouldn't be able to find. Since it's so important to him, I think it's possible that the reason for his rebirth is related to this person or thing. Cough cough, with my inclination, it's possible that it's a person or a woman. To she ancient emperor's jade, there's an inside story. Because of a woman's rebirth, he needs to find this woman after his rebirth. You're saying that the South Mystic Immortal Venerable's enemy snatched his woman away? Woo-woo, now that you mention it, I suddenly feel that this story is very tragic. Fan Yi, tisk women are unreasonable. There's something even more important. The South Mystic Immortal Venerable said that he was the same as Brother Feiyu. Then, he must have sacrificed something extremely important to him. I guess that this thing is very likely to be another reason for his rebirth. Or rather, it's the source of his rebirth. Li Feiyu, this guess is very reliable. If that's the case, then this treasure must be extremely important to an immortal venerable. If he sacrificed this thing, the ancestor god might not let him suffer a loss and reward him with so many points. Fan Yi, you're amazing. Han Li was very impressed. This Fan Yi was truly extraordinary. That South Mystic Immortal Venerable had only appeared and said a few words, yet he was able to analyze so many things. But he didn't know how much of it was correct. Fan Yi, even after analyzing so much, I feel that at least half of it is correct. However, no matter what, the Immortal Venerable is definitely a man who is loyal to his heart. He's our role model. Otherwise, with so many points, if it was me, I would definitely exchange it for those good items that are worth 1,000,000 points. To she ancient emperor's jade, I agree with both hands. Woo-woo, to be so infatuated with a woman, he is definitely a good man. Fan Yi, I already said that it's not completely true. Shouldn't you wash your love brain? Don't take it seriously. To she ancient emperor's jade, I don't care, that's what I think. Su Fan probably didn't expect that not long after he went offline, his background had already been seen through. At this moment, Wang Feng didn't have much interest in the chat group. Master, the 1,000,000 points you gave this time is even more exaggerated. Yan Mengyao looked at the contents of the chat group and the corner of her mouth twitched. Although points were considered a virtual currency, but the items exchanged were all treasures that the master condensed, created, and deduced using his divine power. The more points one exchanged, the more divine power the master would need to exchange for the items. Although the consumption wasn't much, it didn't need to be so generous. Wang Feng smiled and said, Then what if I say that the value of this fragment is 10 times higher than the heaven-controlling bottle? Chapter 1832. It was more than 10 times more valuable than the heaven-wielding bottle. Wang Feng wasn't exaggerating. This is... Yan Mengyao was confused. She stared at the fragment in Wang Feng's hand for a while. This fragment looked even more ordinary than the small bottle. It didn't even have a special aura. Master, what is this? Yan Mengyao asked in a low voice. This is a supreme treasure left behind by the primitive universe. Wang Feng said slowly. A broken supreme treasure. Yan Mengyao was stunned. It's on the same level as my Chaos Green Lotus and Penguac. It contains the 3,000 truths of the primitive universe civilization. Wang Feng stared at the fragment. It's called the Creation Jade Disc. But it's just a fragment. Wang Feng said lightly. Creation Jade Disc? Yen Mengyao searched the database and found no information about this item. This was to be expected. The Great Desolate Universe civilization was a space civilization that had already disappeared. Even then, only the Origin Calamity Godly King survived. Only the Chaos Green Lotus and Penguax were left behind. Yen Qingjue knew something, but she couldn't know so much. Even the Origin Tribulation Deity King, who worked with Yen Qingjue and Shiyu, didn't know if the Creation Rain Butterfly still existed. If the Origin Tribulation Deity King wanted to rebuild the primitive universe, he had to rely on his own understanding of the origin. The true souls of the Chaos Green Lotus and Penguax were the remnant seeds of the primeval world that Yen Qingjue had obtained by chance. That was the remnant souls of the two supreme treasures in the primeval world before the ancestral realm was formed. Later, Wang Feng repaired them through the system. Now, Wang Feng didn't expect to get the fragment of the creation jade disk, one of the three most ancient and powerful supreme treasures of the primitive universe civilization. 3 supreme treasures of the chaos, gathered, Wang Feng murmured. It seems that the will of the primitive universe civilization still exists. Or maybe there's a special attraction between the 3 supreme treasures of the chaos. Wait, it's Yen Qingjue. Thinking of this, a voice suddenly sounded. I found the South Mystic Immortal Monarch, but I don't know about this creation jade disk. Yen Qingjue appeared in the ancestral realm and said slowly, also, this fragment is just a fragment. I don't know why it has the ability to reverse time and space. I met him, so I let him join the group. Wang Feng glanced at her. Is that so? Wang Feng didn't quite believe it. The appearance of the South Mystic Immortal Highness was quite special. First of all, he was different from the other children of Heaven's will. Wang Feng was familiar with all of this. This Nanxian, Immortal Venerable, was a stranger. Especially the appearance of the Good Fortune Jade Disc. Wang Feng hadn't sensed it before. When Su Fan was performing the sacrificial ritual, the Chaos Green Lotus and the Penguax were both startled. Only then did Wang Feng think of the equally famous Chaos Supreme Treasure. Otherwise, these 2 supreme treasures would not have such obvious fluctuations. This was too much of a coincidence. You didn't find this, did you? Wang Feng slowly said. According to what I know, the universe that Su Fan was in had already been invaded by a god. Moreover, Su Fan was defeated by a descendant of a god. That's even more strange. Su Fan was an immortal reverend in his past life. What was a venerable immortal? That was a top-notch existence in a unit universe. He was only one step away from the universe level. Moreover, it was an immortal Tao civilization. In comparison, it was like the worldly immortal of the Shrouded Heaven world and the immortal emperor of the Shrouded Heaven world. A powerhouse that could shatter the heavens with a single thought. He could even touch the law of time to a certain extent. Such a powerhouse, even in the God system universe, those false gods below the sky god level might not be a match for him. How could he be easily defeated by a descendant of a god? The immortal Tao civilization itself covered a wide range and had an extremely high upper limit. To invade a large world of this level, it was not something that a false god could casually interfere with. Just a descendant could defeat a powerhouse of Su Fan's level. This god was definitely not ordinary. He might not be a supreme god, but he was definitely a powerhouse among the sky gods. The kind that had gone through several initial cycle calamities. If it was a supreme god, then it would be even more troublesome. You pulled Su Fan in, presumably you already know about his experience. Wang Feng looked at Yen Qingjue and said lightly. His enemy is at least a heavenly god of the god system universe or even a supreme god. Although I'm not afraid, based on my understanding of you, you would definitely not pull a child of heaven with such an enemy into the group. Because in your opinion, I'm not strong enough to deal with a strong enemy. Once you pull such a child of heaven closer, you would definitely provoke a more powerful supreme god. Not only would it be very disadvantageous to the chat group, but it would also be a great threat to yourself. Speaking of this, Wang Feng paused. So, Su Fan was recommended to you by someone? Wang Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Yan Qingju. This good fortune jade disc was not that easy to obtain. As for Yan Qingju, Wang Feng did not think that she would betray him or anything. She had already cultivated the yin-yang intersection origin. Both sides were symbiotic. If something happened to him, even if she was a heavenly Tao, she would still die. But, yes, someone recommended him to me. Yan Qingju sighed. Is it a god from the god system universe? Wang Feng asked again. Yan Mengyao looked at the conversation between her master and her creator and was stunned for a moment. You can guess. Yan Qingju glanced at Wang Feng. It's the mysterious person I met in the Soul Society before, right? Wang Feng pondered for a moment and said with certainty, the mysterious person who pretended to be you to test me. He's a god from the god system universe? Who is he? Why did he recommend Su Fan to you? He wants to borrow my hand to get rid of the god who invaded Su Fan's universe? I don't know. Yan Qingju shook her head. She's indeed a god from the god system universe, but her identity is very special. She's not an ordinary god. I didn't expect you to think of this. But she told me that Su Fan should be very useful to me. So, she asked me to recommend him to you. Of course, she doesn't know about the chat group. However, the Fortune Jade Disc, Yan Qingju hesitated. I'm not sure if she knows. It's not strange for a god from the god system universe to know about the ancient desolate universe civilization. She recommended Su Fan to me. If she knows about the Fortune Jade Disc, it's very strange for her to do so. Does she know that I want to rebuild the ancient desolate universe? Wang Feng frowned. Or, she just wants to borrow my hand to get rid of the god who has a grudge against Su Fan? There are many factions in the god system universe. It's not strange for this to happen. Who is she? This I can't tell you. Yan Qingju shook her head. To be exact, I don't know much. Do you still remember the palace in the reincarnation well in the Soul Society? Wang Feng nodded slightly. The palace in the reincarnation well was set up by a universe-level life form. It locked up Yan Qingju's natural embryo consciousness. Chapter 1833. This will of the heavenly embryo was very special. It was a must-have in the universe. This will could help a universe-level life form form a body beyond the multiverse and increase the lifespan of the universe to the first wheel. It could even live forever in the universe. As the heavenly axiom of the world, both Yan Qingju and Shiyu were qualified to become universe-level life forms. The heavenly axiom controlled everything in the world and was a supreme being. Yan Qingju and Shiyu were only one step away from universe-level life forms. This was the will of the heavenly embryo. With this will, combined with the will of the world, they could become universe-level life forms. They didn't even need that special universe will. This was the heavenly axiom. It wasn't a normal life form. The one who built that palace was the patrolling god of the god system universe. Yan Qingju said softly. Patrolling god? Wang Feng was stunned. He knew about the patrolling god. This was a special god of the god system universe. They were usually in charge of finding out information about the other unit universes and leaving a mark there to facilitate future invasions. That was why they were called patrolling gods. Wang Feng had always been curious. With Yan Qingju's situation, why would a universe-level life form come to her for no reason? Moreover, it was only the reincarnation lock of the dark demon world that left a palace to lock Yan Qingju's will of the heavenly embryo. So it was just to leave a mark. These gods would usually only leave a mark and wouldn't make a big fuss to prevent that universe from being alarmed and affecting the difficulty of the subsequent invasions. It's the same with Shiyu in the god world. Yan Qingju sighed. However, our universe is relatively weak. Although the God System's universe has left a mark, it hasn't arrived yet. However, once the mark disappears, they can sense it. I didn't know about it before. To be precise, I only found out about the patrolling gods recently. I didn't hide it from you. Wang Feng knew about this. The patrolling gods weren't weak and were usually heavenly gods. They came to the dark demon world and left a mark in the Soul Society to prevent heavenly axioms like Yen Qingju from becoming stronger so that they could invade in the future. They wouldn't let Yen Qingju know about their origins. Later on, when I was roaming the heavens, the Crimson Divine Heavenly Fox clan was coincidentally left behind in our Dark Devil world, and I became acquainted with the Crimson Divine Fox Emperor. After our relationship got better, she told me that you had already broken into the Soul Society's palace. Yen Qingjue continued. Then what about the mysterious person who pretended to be you in the Soul Society? Wang Feng frowned. At first, she was very mysterious. After she used palace was broken by Origin Tribulation God King, the Divine System universe might have sensed it, so they sent another god to check on the situation. This god is the mysterious person you met in the Soul Society. Yen Qingju continued. After she found out about this, she came to my Dark Devil world's soul domain. She found out that the palace in the divine world had been broken into, so she was very curious. Hearing this, Wang Feng seemed to understand a little. The mark left behind by the patrolling god was broken. This meant that this universe had at least given birth to a universe-level life form, which was not a good thing. Of course, the godly system universe would definitely send more great beings to check on the situation. If that was the case, then everything made sense. She didn't do anything to you? Wang Feng asked. No. Yen Qingjue shook her head slightly. She just expressed great interest. She would be very interested, so, she knew about Origin Tribulation God King? Wang Feng asked. Yes. Yen Qingjue nodded, but she didn't know the origin of Origin Tribulation God King. To be precise, she only thought that Origin Tribulation God King was a native heavenly god. Then the Chaos Green Lotus and Pangu Axe? At that time, I hadn't met the Chaos Seed in the ancestral realm. She didn't know either. Then what did she know? Wang Feng was puzzled. After she found out about Origin Tribulation God King, she expressed great interest in me. She didn't seem to have any intention of attacking this universe. Yen Qingjue recalled. Later on, I couldn't hide some things from her. For example, how should I break into the palace? She was very curious about how I, the heavenly Tao of Dark Devil world, should break the shackles of the palace and become a supreme existence. Later on, I nurtured Emotiance, she knew. She even made a bet with me, saying that Emotiance would definitely rebel. Because the heavenly embryo willpower was too attractive to that kind of life form. She said it was impossible for me to succeed. Yen Qingjue sighed again. She was right, I lost the bet. Is there no punishment? Wang Feng stared at her. He could feel the truth from the depths of his soul from every word Yen Qingjue said. It was true. There is, Yen Qingjue said in a low voice. The punishment is, I have to become her clan. She will be able to help me open the palace and make me a universe-level life form. Simply put, she had to submit. I didn't think my method was wrong, so I made a second bet with her. Yen Qingjue looked at Wang Feng. If the person I found this time still couldn't open the palace, then not only would I become her clan, she wouldn't let go of this universe. So I made meticulous preparations according to the information of Origin Calamity, Godly King. I traveled around the universe and coincidentally found Pangu Axe, Primal Chaos Green Lotus, and the Ancestral Domain's Seed. In addition, Shiyu told me about Origin Calamity Godly King's soul reincarnation, so I had that idea. You know what happened after that. Until you came to the palace and used Pangu Axe to break the chains, you didn't covet the heavenly embryo willpower and attack me. She was very shocked, she lost, and even at the last moment she wanted to try again. She wanted to force you to attack me and make me lose. But you saw through her. Even at that time, I didn't know who she was. At this point, Wang Feng understood the whole story. He finally understood why the mysterious person he met in Dark Demon Domain's Soul Domain said that. But I won the bet and you offended her, Yan Qingjue said in a low voice. Yan Qingjue said in a low voice, however, this god from the god system universe doesn't seem to have any intention of attacking you. On the contrary, he is probably interested in you. I'm not sure if she knew about your so-called primitive universe civilization. After you went to the divine domain to fight with the 3 gods of Crow god system, she came to me. She didn't know about the chat group, but she seemed to know that I was looking for some children of destiny for you to help you obtain faith. So, she recommended Su Fan to me. She said that this child of destiny was very special and should be of great use to me, but there was a certain risk. Hearing this, Wang Feng frowned slightly. Not long after he fought with the gods of Crow god system, could it be you said that Crimson God Fox Emperor knew her identity and told you? Wang Feng looked at Yan Qingjue. What is the identity of this god from the god system universe? Chapter 1834. God System Universe. In the vast God System universe, there were many God System factions that divided the countless star fields of the God System universe. Menjiang God System, Menjiang Nebula, Master God Star. From the outer outline of the universe, the Master God Star of Menjiang Nebula was like a black hole. It was pitch black in the bright universe. There was no color, and all the light sources near it couldn't enter this special Master God Star. This Master God Star that didn't fit the aesthetic standards of the God System universe wasn't liked by many gods. Even the neighboring nebulas of Menjiang Nebula weren't visited by many gods. But this didn't hinder the power of Menjiang God System. In Menjiang God System, there was the Menjiang God Academy that had the strongest combat power in the God System universe. Every 1,000 years, it would nurture countless powerful gods for each God System universe. Interestingly, Menjiang God System never produced and sold their own gods. Other god systems would nurture their own gods and keep them in the hands of their own God System universe. Even if it was their own school, they would rarely recruit young gods or young gods from other factions. Even if they were geniuses, it was often hard to retain gods that weren't from their own God System universe. But Menjiang God System was different. Menjiang God System universe was used by other God Systems universe to nurture gods. And the gods that were nurtured were usually very powerful. Gods that could graduate from Menjiang Academy were the best of the best among their peers. Because of this, although many God Systems universe didn't care about Menjiang Star, not many gods were willing to visit. They couldn't stand the nebula atmosphere and the many Menjiang rules. However, there were many Empyrean gods who would send their young gods or young gods to Menjiang Main Star to undergo special learning and training. And, as more and more gods graduated, Menjiang God System became more and more famous. But it was harder to become a student of Menjiang Academy because Menjiang God System universe would only recruit a batch of students every 1,000 years. The quota was very limited. In the beginning, he was disliked by many factions of gods. Now, he was respected by countless factions of gods. Among all the god factions in the God System universe, the Shadow God System was one of a kind. At this time, outside Menjiang Nebula, a shadow stepped out of the void, stepping on rays of dazzling light. The shadow stared at Menjiang Star in front of him, as if waiting for something. In just a moment, all of a sudden, a crack appeared in the middle of the seemingly boundless mystic Shadow Main Star. It was as if a huge eyeball had gently opened. 3 deities in purplish-black robes quickly emerged from the slit. "Welcome, Your Highness." The 3 gods that appeared from the Shadow Main Star appeared in front of the shadow in the blink of an eye. A respectful and deep voice came out of his mouth. I wonder if your highness you has come to my Shin-ing main star today. What instructions do you have? The leading deity took a step forward. He was wearing a long robe, and in the darkness, only his purple gold face could be seen. Nothing much, the shadow said calmly. The three gods of the shadow god system remained silent. He was probably waiting for the rest of the story. I just happened to pass by here, the shadow continued, and I wanted to tell you something. We're all ears, the three gods of Menjing's faction hurriedly said. Did the Crow Divine Branch's Earth Spirit God graduate from your branch? Asked the shadow. The Crow Divine Branch's Earth Spirit God? The leading god's eyes flashed with ancient numbers, as if he was investigating something. After a short while, his expression changed slightly. Yes. The Crow Divine Branch's Earth Spirit God dear is the 365th generation of students of our Menjing Divine Palace. Oh, the shadow replied calmly. That's not bad. Menjing Divine Palace had been established for 10 generations. Each generation was divided into 100,000 years, and every 10,000 years, there would be a batch of students. The first generation of students who had survived until now were basically all supreme gods. Therefore, Menjing Divine Branch had a rather unique position in the divine system universe. The leading god immediately explained to the other gods beside him. The Earth Spirit God dear's strength has decreased. The god on the left said in a low voice. The reason is that he has lost the most important Earth origin. This Earth origin is the origin of our Menjing Divine Palace. The two gods' expressions changed. The pressure on your Menjing Divine Branch is increasing, the shadow said casually. As one of the pillars of our pantheon universe, he has nurtured many outstanding Empyrean gods and even supreme gods for our pantheon universe. As the number of generations increases, the pressure will definitely increase. You can consider resting for a few generations. After all, I think the elders of your Menjing Divine Branch want to see each generation of heavenly gods getting stronger. I still have other matters to attend to, so I won't disturb you. After saying that, the shadow turned around and entered the light door behind him, disappearing. After a long time, the leading god said in a low voice, For Her Highness to come here personally to warn us, it seems like Her Highness witnessed it with her own eyes. The Earth Spirit God dear was also one of the best in our divine palace back then. His strength has decreased. To our Menjing Divine Branch, this is really a slap in the face. That native heavenly god is not to be underestimated. Her Highness must have warned us so that we can test that native heavenly god. It seems like the higher-ups are worried about a battle between gods. They were the higher-ups of the Menjing Divine Branch. All of them were supreme gods. Although the divine system universe was vast and boundless, there were countless god factions. If one wanted to know some news, they might not be able to get it on time. However, this was a big event that had caused a stir in the divine system universe. Naturally, they knew very well about the battle between a native heavenly god and a fake god of the divine system universe. However, the matter of the death spirit god luring that native heavenly god into the divine realm and besieging him with the other two heavenly gods was kept a secret. They did not know about it immediately. This native heavenly god's strength is unfathomable. Ordinary heavenly gods might not be able to do anything to him. The god on the left said in a low voice, Why don't we send that guy to try? That heavy earth origin came from our Menjing Divine Palace. If this matter gets out and the gods of other god factions know about it, what will they think of us? The heavenly gods cultivated by our Menjing Divine Palace can't even control their own origin. How can they be heavenly gods? How can they materialize the will of the universe? It will really damage the prestige and reputation of our Menjing Divine Branch that has been accumulated for so many generations. Elder Shadow, you decide. After he finished speaking, he fell silent. The god on the right said in a hesitant tone, This is a battle between gods. It involves the divine strategy of the upper echelons of the universe. It is a big game with the native heavenly gods. If we get involved, I'm afraid we will be in great danger. Chapter 1835. The outside world doesn't know what the War of the Gods means, but how can we not know? Whether it's the native god or the fake god from Donghuang god system, they are all pawns of both sides. If they get involved, their future will be unpredictable. Although there aren't any primal gods among the native Empyrean gods, there are still one or two paramount gods. Even if they are struggling at death's door, if they act recklessly, they can easily destroy several god systems. For the entire god system universe, it may not be a big deal. But which god system dares to act recklessly? After the god on the right finished speaking, he became silent, as if he was waiting for the god in the middle to make a decision. The god in the lead pondered for a moment and said slowly, "Let the kid try. If he can find the Earth origin, it will be a good thing. If he can't, it's not a bad thing to learn more about the native god. However, that kid has been in our god learning palace for more than 10 generations, and he doesn't follow the rules. I don't know if he can complete the task we gave him." The three higher-ups of the Shadow God system seemed to have thought of something. They couldn't help but sigh and look at each other. At this moment, a slightly playful voice sounded. "Grandpa Shadow Gods, why did you come out today? What are you all whispering about?" As soon as she finished speaking, the three gods' faces changed on the other side. The ancestral realm. The fragment of the jade plate of good fortune had led to a series of events. Fortunately, things were clear now, which made Wang Feng feel quite good. After Yan Qingjue left, Wang Feng had some other follow-up plans in his mind. It was actually not good news that he had caught the attention of a special god from the god system universe. In particular, this god seemed to have a hard time figuring out his behavior. After Yan Qingjue finished speaking, Wang Feng immediately thought of the god in the god of death's divine realm, who didn't make a move from the beginning to the end. He seemed to be watching the battle in the shadow. Wang Feng couldn't perceive much. It was highly possible that the god in the shadow might have a close relationship with this special god. Of course, these were all guesses, and Wang Feng couldn't come to a conclusion. By the way, the fourth reincarnation should have enough power of faith to be established, right? After Yan Qingjue left, Wang Feng pondered. "Enough, master." Yan Mengyao reported. "During the few days you left the ancestral realm and went to the god of death's domain in the godly system universe, the power of faith was continuously generated. It should be enough. Because the body of faith was in the ancestral realm, the Chaos Green Lotus had been increasing its power. Yan Mengyao managed all the faith power generated by the buff. After Wang Feng returned, he immediately started the God Hunt activity. He did not pay attention to how much power of faith he had generated. "Master, wait, don't you intend to repair this fragment?" Yan Mengyao suddenly asked. "Since this fragment of the Fortune Jade Disc is so powerful, and was given by the South Mystic Immortal Sovereign, you can use your Green Lotus to repair it, right?" Wang Feng smiled and said, "They are supreme treasures of the same level. It is not that easy to repair them." It was different from a true treasure of a unit universe like the sky-wielding bottle. Although it took a lot of effort to repair it, it was relatively easy for your master. The main reason is that I can use the primordial origin to deduce the heaven-wielding bottle and use it to create a bottle spirit. Only by combining the two can I completely repair it. Otherwise, the Green Lotus can only repair the bottle body. It cannot create a bottle spirit for no reason. However, this good fortune jade disc is only a fragment. I need to use the primordial origin to complete the derivation of it before I can repair it. I need to obtain the 3,000 great Daos within it. A supreme treasure of the same level is not something that can be done in a day. Wang Feng sighed. When he repaired the Chaos Green Lotus and the Pangu Axe True Soul, it took a lot of effort. The Chaos Green Lotus was relatively simple. However, it still needed a long time to nurture and cultivate. It was only considered complete after he cultivated many abilities. When he was in the Douluo continent, the Chaos Green Lotus was only partially repaired. It could only unleash the power of the martial soul. After he was sealed in the sacred mountain for 10,000 years and comprehended the life origin, the Chaos Green Lotus was greatly repaired and the true soul slowly recovered. After he became a god and comprehended the primordial origin, he deduced the primordial origin. His strength increased greatly and he reached the perfect state of being one with the true soul. It was the same for the Penguax. When he was in the soul domain of the dark demon realm, he spent a lot of effort but it was not completely repaired. It was only after he destroyed Mo Tiance that it was almost completely repaired. Even with Wang Feng's current strength, it would take a long time to repair the Fortune Jade Disc. Moreover, the Chaos Green Lotus's recovery effect was greatly reduced when compared to a supreme treasure of the same level. Only when he used the primordial origin to deduce the complete form of this fragment and then used the Chaos Green Lotus to repair it could he succeed. However, once this item was reproduced, Wang Feng felt that his strength might quickly enter another world. It was better to take it slow for now. Wang Feng came to the infernal court. The body of faith shone with divine light. It was as if the power of faith had condensed into substance. It was like a golden glacier. Spiritual path reincarnation. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. Because of the heaven-wielding bottle, the spiritual energy in the ancestral realm was beginning to become abundant. Countless treasures of heaven and earth would be born. And this was the time for the spirit clan to appear. Spiritual path reincarnation. In Wang Feng's setting for the ancestral realm, the spirit clan was an innate life form that could control the power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Their souls were extremely powerful. They were born with the ability to control mountains and rivers, wind, wood, water, and fire. They could control the spiritual veins of heaven and earth and control the 4 divisions. But in contrast, the spirit clan's physical body was relatively weak. In Wang Feng's expectation, the spirit clan did not even need a physical body. They only needed a pure soul. Therefore, compared to the human race, the Azura race, and the monster race, they were easier to create. Wang Feng had left behind some souls that had not yet entered the cycle of reincarnation. They had been purified to create the spirit clan. The ancestral realm was an extremely large world. Under the heavenly Tao, Yan Mengyao could only be responsible for the general operation of the world. But the operation of the many lives in the ancestral realm, the changes of heaven and earth, and so on, would exhaust Yan Mengyao to death just by relying on the heavenly Tao. The appearance of the spirit clan itself was to neutralize the operation of the ancestral realm, so that it could reach a suitable rhythm to make the ancestral realm stronger. It would not lead to many flaws because of too much patience. Simply put, the spirit clan was created by Wang Feng to make up for the lack of heaven and earth. Being powerful was inevitable, and the spirit clan could change according to the 5 elements of heaven and earth, yin and yang, and could take many forms. Speaking of which, that snow oxypetalum. Wang Fengxin's heart jumped. That was one of the spirit clan's ideas. I wonder how it is now? Yan Mengyao, how is the snow oxypetalum now? Wang Feng asked. Of course it is very good. Yan Mengyao giggled. Why, master, do you want to take a look? Speaking of which, this child was created by you and another matriarch. From a certain perspective, it is your child. Chapter 1836. Ancestral Realm. South of the central Palm Mountain was a sparkling and resplendent blessed land in the forest. Ever since the birth of the Demon Beast clan and the Human clan, the world had been filled with vitality, and this blessed land in the forest nurtured a huge amount of heaven and earth spirit energy that the Palm Mountain absorbed. It slowly became a treasure land that countless living beings envied. However, in the sky, 2 giant demon beasts with wings that were tens of thousands of meters long flew across the void. As the first batch of connate demon beasts created by the ancestor god, not only were they powerful, but they were also extremely intelligent. In addition, the ancestor god had sent down the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian that could create thousands of living beings in the ancestral realm. This allowed the demon beast clan to comprehend their own unique cultivation techniques from the 9 volumes. Not only were the demon beast clan innately powerful, but they could also pry into the mysteries of heaven and earth. Naturally, most of the demon beast clan were extremely arrogant, and these 2 demon beasts were called strange winds. They could cross 50,000 kilometers with a flap of their wings. They were the best of the first bat. Big Brother, the center of the giant mountain, is occupied by countless powerful demon beasts. Apart from that, there is also the Azura clan. Although there are very few Azuras, they are all unbelievably powerful. Even among our demon beast clan, there are not many who can match them. One of the strange winds behind let out a snort. There are also those humans. Speaking of which, those humans are clearly much weaker than us demon beasts. However, they claim to be the first living being created by the ancestor god. After countless years of development and strengthening, there are peerless experts in each of the large tribes. They have already occupied the area north of the giant mountain with 3,000 wings spread. Basically, human experts are guarding it. We have no choice. 3,000 wings spread. In the knowledge of the 2 strange winds, 1 flap of their wings could fly for a very long time. 3,000 wings spread, even they would have to fly for many days. Ever since the ancestor god descended on the giant mountain to benefit the ancestral realm, all living beings wanted to occupy the area around the giant mountain with the Palm Mountain imprint. However, the human clan had the largest number and the fastest reaction. Unlike the demon beast clan, their reaction was several times slower. In addition, there were very few of them, so they couldn't match the human clan. Most importantly, they were very scattered. Although the demon beasts all believed in the ancestor god, they didn't unite like the human clan. On the contrary, they were scattered. This place is not bad. The strange wind in front looked at the treasure land below and muttered to himself. Logically speaking, such a treasure land should be occupied by those demons. After all, this place is not far from the Palm Mountain. Chi Feng, who was at the back, flapped his wings and said. After saying that, he flew down without waiting for Chi Feng in front of him. This child. With. Strange Wind's voice came from the front. Hey, big brother, there's only 1 flower here. What's that? There doesn't seem to be a single flower demon in our monster beast clan. With. Big brother Chi Feng calmed himself down and immediately flew over. In this treasure land there were all kinds of spiritual items that dazzled him. Earth. There was a spring in the middle. The spring water reflected a rainbow-like luster. It was very beautiful, and in the middle of the spring water, there was an even more beautiful flower. This peanut had 12 petals. The stamen was faint golden, and the petals were snow-white. They seemed to be floating with the spiritual energy fluctuations of heaven and earth. Waves of rich heaven and earth energy were emitted in all directions. It was holy and beautiful, pure and flawless, as if it contained the purest aura of heaven and earth. This made the 2 great demons sigh deeply. No wonder this place became a treasure land. Big brother Chi Feng sighed. It turns out that there is such a divine flower nurturing this world. It's just that. Big brother, this divine flower seems to be withering. Chi Feng exclaimed. Look, its petals are withering. Why is this happening? Every time the divine flower floated, one of its petals would gently wither. Big brother, why is this happening? Chi Feng turned around and asked. This divine flower should have a spirit, right? Why is it doing this? Is it one of our demon beasts? Big brother Chi Feng didn't know how to answer. He was only awakened a few hundred years earlier than his foolish second brother. Facing this vast and boundless ancestral realm, he didn't even know a thing or two. Naturally, he couldn't understand this situation. Maybe its lifespan is reaching its end. Big Brother Chi Feng pondered. All living beings in this world have a lifespan cycle. We are all created by the ancestor God. Our lifespan is abundant, and we have the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian. We can cultivate the body. But I heard that before the ancestral realm created all living beings, there were also some living beings in the ancestral realm. They didn't belong to any major races, but they had to go through hardships and couldn't obtain the favor of the ancestor God. In the end, most of them dissipated in this world. Maybe. When Chi Feng heard this, he thought for a long time before saying, "Then what should we do? This divine flower is going to wither soon. Should we just watch and occupy this place to cultivate? Or?" Big Brother Chi Feng's voice suddenly became serious. The demon beasts were all created by the ancestor God. This divine flower blooms in the ancestral realm, so it is the ancestor God's people. The ancestor God has no time to take care of it, so we naturally can't ignore it. Although the great demons of the sovereign mountain and the various human races are fighting for territories, there are rules. We can win with strength, and we can't kill. Therefore, when we see it now, we naturally can't ignore it. The withering of this divine flower is most likely because its lifespan is reaching its end. What the demon beast race doesn't lack the least is lifespan. With the innate blood essence, we should be able to protect this divine flower. When Chi Feng's second brother heard his big brother's words, he suddenly felt that his big brother actually had the demeanor of a peerless great demon. For a moment, his eyes were filled with reverence. "Then I'll go first." Chi Feng's second brother flew to the top of the divine flower. He suddenly opened his abyss-like mouth and immediately spat out a stream of resplendent and dense blood essence. "Don't use too much at once." Big Brother Chi Feng hurriedly said, "Don't use too much of your essence." Chi Feng's second brother nodded and stopped after spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood essence. Then, Big Brother Chi Feng continued. The blood essence dripped around the divine flower and dyed the clear spring water red. It seemed to be absorbed and quickly became clear. The withering speed of the divine flower seemed to have slowed down for a long time. "Big Brother, it's effective." Chi Feng's second brother was pleasantly surprised. "It seems like it's really as you said. As expected of Big Brother." Big Brother Chi Feng slightly flapped his wings and didn't say anything. Chapter 1837. Thus, the 2 great demons began to live in this blessed land. While using this innate blessed land to study the Book of Ian's 9 volumes of the Ancestor God, they comprehended many profound techniques. At the same time, they used their blood essence to nourish this divine flower. The divine flower had a spirit, but it didn't care about these 2 monsters. No matter how these 2 monsters called and tried to sense it, the divine flower didn't respond. However, the divine flower continued to wither. The faster it withered, the denser the energy of heaven and earth in this blessed land. The 2 strange winds seemed to have understood something. Their blood essence could only slow down the withering of the divine flower. Until several hundred years later, the 2 monsters' strength had reached an extremely high level. However, this divine flower only had one last petal left. Finally, the 2 understood that the divine flower withered and became dazzling, creating this blessed land. It was simply irreversible. The denser the spirit energy of this blessed land, the faster the divine flower withered. Thus, the 2 sealed this blessed land, feeling grateful for the grace of nurturing it, and guarded it. They didn't absorb any more of the energy of heaven and earth in this blessed land. They hoped that this divine flower wouldn't wither. After another 100 years, the blessed land was sealed, and not a trace of the spirit energy of heaven and earth leaked out. However, the two monsters repelled countless waves of monsters and human experts who coveted this place. On this day, Big Brother, I can't sense that divine flower. Second Brother Chi Feng didn't open the seal of the blessed land. Instead, he placed his wings on the ground of the blessed land and tried to sense it. In order to seal this place, they had once flown to the westernmost side and seized the god's sealing stone guarded by the Azura clan. They surrounded and sealed the energy of heaven and earth here. They had been chased by the Azura clan for several decades. They had been severely injured several times, but they had managed to escape. The Azura clan didn't have the same rules as the humans and monsters. They were powerful, murderous, and had rules. Once any living creature dared to break their rules, they would definitely be hunted down by the entire clan. Basically, no one could survive. The god's sealing stone was a supreme treasure guarded by their clan. It was extremely rare, and they wouldn't give it to other living creatures. How is this possible? Big Brother Chi Feng's voice sounded a lot older. He said in surprise, I remember that after we sealed this place, the energy in the world stopped spreading. The withering speed of the divine flowers slowed down, and with the nourishment of our blood essence, they should have stopped withering. I don't know either. Chi Feng's second brother said blankly, What's going on? Hundreds of years had passed since then. They already had feelings for this place and the divine flower. Otherwise, he wouldn't have guarded it for so long. Big Brother, should we open the seal? Chi Feng's second brother's gaze landed on his big brother's body as he trembled slightly. Big Brother seemed to have aged a long time. His blood essence had been depleted for hundreds of years. Later on, he had sealed this place and stopped cultivating. Over the years, not only had his strength not increased, it had even decreased by a lot. Open it and take a look. Big Brother Chi Feng was silent for a moment. His voice was somewhat hoarse as he said, When the divine flower withers, it's time for us to leave. After getting the answer, second Brother Chi Feng gently broke the seal on the door. A dense misty sea of heaven and earth energy spilled out from within. However, the divine flower at the center had already completely fallen. When they opened the seal on the door, the last petal had also withered and withered. Seeing this, the two Chi Feng's eyes became somewhat sluggish. Let's go. Big Brother Chi Feng said softly. All living beings in the world have their own destiny. I, your big brother, have only recently comprehended this principle. When we found this treasured land, we relied on the heaven and earth spiritual chi in this treasured land and the profound essence emitted by the divine flower to cultivate and comprehend the 9 scrolls of the Book of Ian, becoming unparalleled heavenly demons. However, we have also guarded this place for hundreds of years, consuming thousands of years of our lifespan. Somehow, the ancestral god told me that perhaps it's time to end it here. But I don't want to see this divine flower wither. Chi Feng's second brother said. This divine flower is a great living being of the heaven and earth. Its withering might be another kind of rebirth. Big Brother Chi Feng said in a low voice. I don't believe it. Chi Feng's second brother flew over. However, he was stopped by Big Brother Chi Feng. With our current state, any remedy is meaningless. Big Brother Chi Feng said calmly. The withering of all living beings in this world is the reincarnation of the heavenly Tao. It's not something you and I can resist. Second brother, there will be a day when we can't reach the great Tao. Now, this divine flower is like that. I don't understand. Chi Feng's second brother shook his head and continued to fly over. His mouth was spitting out the light of blood essence. But I can't let this divine flower wither like this. Stupid! Big Brother Chi Feng immediately scolded. After a while, seeing his second brother's stubborn look, Big Brother Chi Feng scolded again and flew over. Then, he spat out blood essence as well, after an unknown period of time. Just like that, the two great demons used their own blood essence to nourish this already withered divine flower. The blood essence disappeared into the spring water. It seemed to have been absorbed and disappeared. After an unknown period of time, there was a loud rumble. The two Qi Fengs fell from the sky. Big brother, why is the divine flower still withered? Qi Feng's second brother's eyes were lifeless. There seemed to be some golden light circulating around his eyes. That was the sign of his lifespan reaching its end. I don't know. I already said, it's futile. Big brother Qi Feng snorted and said intermittently. Why are you so stupid, big brother? Aren't you the same? Big brother Qi Feng's divine flower, which only had a section of withered bone left, seemed to be recalling the past hundreds of years. In the end, it only turned into a light sigh. He slowly closed his eyes. Suddenly, he felt that perhaps this was the great Tao of heaven and earth, the reincarnation cycle. Big brother Qi Feng could no longer feel his second brother's breathing. He could only feel the slight throbbing of his second brother's soul. Based on that, he could tell that his second brother was still alive. It was at this moment. A hazy voice suddenly resounded in their ears. Thank you for letting me understand. The hazy voice seemed to be emitted by the withered divine flower. Big brother Qi Feng felt that it was funny. Although this divine flower was an innate divine object, its intelligence seemed to be in a sealed state. In these hundreds of years, it had never said a word. Now that it had withered, how could it speak? While thinking, he used his last breath to open his eyes. But when he opened his eyes, he was slightly stunned. In the center of the spring, there seemed to be hundreds of millions of dazzling starlight gathering. The surrounding God-sealing stones seemed to have been blasted open by a huge force, revealing the majestic world of the ancestral realm. A dazzling purple-gold light beam broke through the 9 heavens and descended. It directly shone on the roots of the capital God flower. In an instant, the brilliance began to gather from the surroundings like flowing fire. In just the blink of an eye, the withered divine flower emitted an even more dazzling light. It seemed that at this moment it had reached some kind of peak. The peak of the great Tao. It made all the living beings in the ancestral realm look up and exclaim endlessly. It was as if they were deeply shocked and amazed by the first living being to transcend the ancestral realm, as well as yearning. Chapter 1838. In the ancestral realm. Wang Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw this scene. The little guy has already attained the Tao. Yan Mingyao's words reminded Wang Feng of the snow Sirius. He had never seen it since he and the Qianrenxue had created it. Therefore, he had come to take a look while he was creating the spirit path reincarnation. He hadn't expected to encounter such a scene as soon as he arrived. He. Master, there is no Tao in the ancestral realm now. Yan Mengyao looked at Wang Feng with a playful smile. This child has lived in the ancestral realm for thousands of years and has suddenly transcended. Are you surprised? There was no Tao because the current system of the ancestral realm had just been established. The 9 paths of reincarnation were not complete yet. It was indeed extraordinary to be able to transcend the ancestral realm's Tao. Wang Feng scanned the area with his eyes and clearly saw the flower growing in the clouds below the ancestral realm. I see. Wang Feng murmured. The snow Sirius was extraordinary. It had been created by him and the Qianrenxue. When the Qianrenxue had created it, its characteristics had been set. This kind of flower only has one chance to bloom, and it blooms for those who can appreciate its beauty to appreciate it. That will be the most beautiful time and the most powerful time. After that, it will wither. Wang Feng remembered the original words very clearly. When it had been created, it had already possessed this characteristic. Wang Feng knew that the Qianrenxue had used it as a metaphor for herself. If she had given the angel source core to Wang Feng, it would have withered like the snow Sirius. Therefore, she had used this opportunity to reject his request. At the time, Wang Feng hadn't cared. He had followed the Qian Renshue's request and given it this characteristic when it had been created. This child has been nurtured in the ancestral realm for countless years and has always been in a withered state. Because it has already bloomed. To be precise, when you created the first path of reincarnation, before the group and the body of faith were established, it gradually bloomed. However, the energy of heaven and earth in the ancestral realm was not strong at that time, Yan Mengyao said. This child has been nurturing for countless years. Unfortunately, there weren't many living beings in the ancestral realm when it bloomed. The human race hadn't been born yet. No one appreciated it. After she finished speaking, Yan Mengyao glanced at Wang Feng. It's as if to say that you don't care about the child you created. Wang Feng. It sounded a little sad. Wang Feng coughed twice. At that time, Yan Qingju had just created the chat group, and he was dealing with the god of death in the god-surpassing universe. When he returned, he dived into the chat group and established a body of faith to create the 9 paths of reincarnation. I would only think about it occasionally. After that, it has been in a state of withering. At that time, her spiritual sense was already in a sealed state, waiting to wither away and die. Yan Mengyao said, however, at that time, Master had already established the body of faith and poured the ancestral realm with an endless stream of divine power of faith, causing the ancestral realm to rapidly grow stronger. The rate of her withering slowed down a lot. Later on, by chance, you created the Monster Beast clan, and those 2 little monsters met this child. These 2 little monsters are quite interesting. They have been using their own blood essence to feed this withering child. What's interesting is that the blood essence of these 2 little monsters was created by you, Master. After being enhanced by the green lotus, it mixed with some of your divine power. Probably because of this, it awakened the child's spiritual sense that had been sealed. As the heavenly Tao, Yan Mengyao had been recording every bit of the ancestral realm. What she said was not wrong. With her new spiritual consciousness, the characteristics you gave her have become a kind of Tao. Yan Mengyao's expression was serious. Moreover, this spiritual sense allowed her to comprehend emotions, withering and dying in the midst of resplendence. But if she can be reborn in the fire at the moment of withering, she can transcend the Tao. The ancestral realm has been around for some time, and her situation has opened up a brand new Tao for the other living beings in the ancestral realm. The emergence of the Tao had extraordinary significance. Self-born life and being able to comprehend the Tao meant that the other party had comprehended some kind of origin, which meant that they could touch that universe-level life. In short, this child had become the benchmark of the ancestral realm. Wang Feng pinched his chin. What about those 2 little monsters? They lost too much blood essence, so their potential has decreased, and their cultivation has dropped. Yan Mengyao said, however, this child has an excellent temperament. Now that she has attained the Tao, those 2 little monsters should also get a lot of benefits. Anyway, speaking of this, Yan Mengyao giggled. It depends on how you reward them, Master. You have the final say in things like the Tao. Wang Feng did not say anything. Looking at the huge energy beam below, he waved his hand slightly. In an instant, the golden light was as bright as stars, shrouding down like a waterfall, forming a broad path to the sky. Endless majestic spiritual energy fell from the sky, filling the ancestral realm. Wang Feng thought about it again. After all, it was a creature created by him and the Qianrenxue, so it had extraordinary significance. Now that it had reached this step by itself, it would not be right if he did not reward it. It just so happens that the Ling clan's reincarnation lacks a wise leader, so let this child take charge of the reincarnation of the spiritual path. Wang Feng finished speaking and closed his eyes. I don't know if she is willing. Because of the special nature of the spiritual path, it would affect the changes of heaven and earth, which was no small matter. In charge of a reincarnation, if there was a slight mistake, the entire ancestral realm would change. At the same time, in the ancestral realm, the broad path to heaven and earth appeared in the sight and soul of every creature. No one knew what was going on, but they all vaguely knew that perhaps the creatures in the ancestral realm had reached a certain level. They could leave the ancestral realm and face Father God. That withered divine flower contained endless brilliance, sprinkling down endless life force. It was like a rain of life, dripping onto the two strange winds. Then it rose to the sky. It came to the sky of the ancestral realm, turned into a human form, but it was a girl who looked about 14 or 15 years old. In terms of appearance, she was 50 to 60% similar to the Qianrenxue. Father God. The girl's voice trembled, but there was a bit of calmness. Her eyes were full of reverence, and a bit of a child's desire for her parents. Wang Feng smiled slightly and said, "When I created you, I did not pay attention to you. Now that you have touched the great Tao, you can see me. It is my dereliction of duty." "Father God, don't say that." The girl's voice was soft, and her eyes were clear. "You gave me life. Otherwise, I would have been a nameless wildflower back then, and I would have withered long ago. I would have no intelligence. It is already worth it for me to be able to bloom in the ancestral realm." Hearing this, Wang Feng felt a bit of a father's emotion and a bit of guilt. "I plan to let you take charge of the spiritual path reincarnation," said Wang Feng. The girl was stunned and asked, "What is the spiritual path?" Chapter 1839. Wang Feng smiled. He pointed at the sky of the ancestral realm. In an instant, a spot of golden light appeared in the blue sky of the ancestral realm, hanging high in the sky. It emitted endless and scorching light. The spirit of heaven and earth, the pool of all things. This is the spirit path. That's the spirit of Yang. Then, Wang Feng pointed in another direction. The jade-like round plate emitted billions of rays of light, illuminating the countless living beings in the ancestral realm. That's the spirit of Yin. These two spirits of Yin and Yang control the time of the ancestral realm and the breath of all things. Wang Feng said. The girl's breathing paused. Yan Mengyao made a peace sign. "Yeah, with the appearance of the spirit path reincarnation, my work can finally be reduced. Woo woo woo." As the heavenly Tao of the ancestral realm, Yan Mengyao had to control the flow of time in the ancestral realm. In fact, it was very tiring. After all, she had to pay attention to the changes in the ancestral realm. Moreover, the laws of the ancestral realm hadn't been determined yet. There was only the concentration of energy in the world, but no change in temperature. The growth of all things could only depend on the pure energy of heaven and earth. Over time, this wasn't suitable for the growth of all kinds of living beings. It was also difficult to give birth to powerful regions and blessed land. The more powerful a world was, the more living beings it was suitable for. There were also countless blessed enclaves. For example, the divine realm of the god of death was shabby and didn't even have any basic configuration. It was only suitable for the god of death's descendants. Then Wang Feng pointed at the vast land of the ancestral realm. The spirits of the 5 elements control the flow of the 5 elements. The spirits of nature can be born from all things in the world and can have spirits. Every time Wang Feng pointed, a different spirit would fall on the land of the ancestral realm. The spirit race was different from the other 3 races that had been born. Their souls were extremely powerful, but their physical bodies could be ever-changing. They were completely connected to all things in the ancestral realm. Therefore, Wang Feng didn't need to create a physical body. He just needed to inject powerful laws into their souls, like a genetic code, so that after they were born, they could take the form Wang Feng set for them. At the same time, Wang Feng added a few special strands of faith power. When the spirit race was born, the ancestral realm always had many discomforts. Wang Feng looked at the girl. Now that you've obtained the spirit path reincarnation, you can sense the changes in the ancestral realm. It's not easy. It was indeed not easy. Wang Feng had injected the power of faith generated by Han Li and Su Fan into the Yin and Yang spirit. The Yin and Yang spirits were the hardest to control. In the meantime, the more races there were in the ancestral realm, the more conflicts there would inevitably be. For example, the Yang spirit in the sky was created by Wang Feng using the sun as a standard. This was the most exhausting astral life form. He was like the golden crow of the primitive universe. However, the golden crow belonged to the demon beast race in the primitive universe. But here, Wang Feng used the spirit race as one of the suns, changing its meaning. Once there was a temperature between the heavens and the earth would undergo a great change. With the changes of the 5 elements, it was possible for the human race to become an even more powerful race because of these changes. This would save Wang Feng a lot more effort than creating it himself. In short, with the reincarnation of the spirit path, the ancestral realm was on the right track. In the future, it would continue to produce more powerful beings and races. Above the 9 paths of reincarnation, countless powerful branch races were born, filled with endless possibilities. Just like the endless primitive demon beasts in the primal chaos. With this spirit path, the future demon beast race would definitely be able to reproduce the endless primitive demon beasts of the primitive universe. It could even produce even more powerful demon beasts. After explaining all of this, Wang Feng looked at the young girl to see if she planned to answer. I will do my best to receive the gift of Father God. The young girl accepted without hesitation. Wang Feng smiled. This child was really sensible. However, he didn't know if she could adapt to such a big burden. In the blink of an eye, he thought that this child was not only created by him, but also contained the divine power of the Qianrenshu. In terms of personality, she seemed to be somewhat similar to the Qianrenshu. Controlling a path of reincarnation shouldn't be difficult for her. Then go. If there's anything, just come here to find me, Wang Feng said. The young girl stared at Wang Feng and nodded. Just as the young girl left, Wang Feng's heart suddenly stirred. Something happened in the chat group. Wang Feng pondered for a few seconds. It seems to be from the immortal sword world. Is it that little guy? Yan Mengyao asked. This son of destiny disappeared for a long time. He only appeared in the chat group recently. He's calling me. It's a very sincere call. It seems that something big has happened. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. Let me see. Speaking of which, in the immortal sword world where Jing Tian is, even the final boss shouldn't be very strong. Wang Feng knew a lot about the immortal sword world. In the timeline where Jing Tian was, the biggest boss should be Evil Sword Immortal. What was a boss like Evil Sword Immortal? In the setting, Wang Feng thought that Evil Sword Immortal was very similar to Long Xie. In other words, Evil Sword Immortal was at most as strong as Long Xie. Long Xie was currently in the Douluo divine world, and had absorbed the resentment of many gods before Douluo divine world. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that his strength was comparable to Tang San. But the immortal sword world has Chong Lu. Wang Feng thought, with Chong Lu's strength, beating up Evil Sword Immortal shouldn't be a problem. What was Chong Lu's strength? Chong Lu of the immortal sword world was not ordinary. One had to know that Wang Feng had met Chong Lu in the Dark Demon World's Tianming River. At that time, Wang Feng was crossing the river with Chong Lu. Later, after Wang Feng crossed the river, Chong Lu also left. That Chong Lu also left the Dark Devil World, and said that he came to the Dark Devil World to gain experience. At that time, Chong Lu's strength was already comparable to the demon gods of the Dark Demon World. The demon gods of the Dark Demon World were not simple. With Chong Lu's strength at that time, returning to the immortal sword world might not be a problem for him to fight his way to the immortal sword world. Since then, the immortal sword world where Jing Tian was in had already deviated from its original trajectory. It seems that the God system universe has also invaded. Wang Feng shook his head. Wang Feng paid attention to the direction of everyone in the group. Although Jing Tian didn't appear much, every time he appeared, Yan Mengyao would record it. Basically, as long as he appeared once, Wang Feng could determine the trajectory of the other party's world. Then, using the primordial chaos origin to deduce, even if he didn't appear, he could roughly guess the direction of the change. Call Long Xie and let's go take a look. Wang Feng thought for a moment. Evil Sword Immortal should be good for Long Xie to absorb, right? Speaking of which, I haven't seen Long Xie in a while. Wang Feng was a little emotional. Not to mention Long Xie. He rarely returned to the Douluo divine world. Chapter 1840. Immortal Sword World. Jing Tian's scalp went numb. He disappeared from the chat group for a long time. It wasn't that Jing Tian didn't want to chat and brag with the members of the chat group. After all, the members of the chat group were all very interesting. He liked it here very much. No matter how he thought about it, the world was ever-changing. Jing Tian didn't expect that a small pawnshop assistant like him would have such an encounter. First, he was told by a mysterious person that a great disaster would befall the world and that he was the savior of the world. But how could he believe such nonsense? However, he didn't expect a red-haired man to tell him that he was some divine general of the divine realm, his destined opponent. And this red-haired man claimed that his cultivation had reached the transcendent realm, and that no one in the 6 realms could stop him. He was the only one who was barely qualified to be his opponent. Jing Tian didn't believe such nonsense even more. There were several times when he wanted to talk about these strange things with the group members in the chat group. However, he didn't expect that by chance, not only did he leave the pawnshop, but he also entered the extremely mysterious immortal cultivation sect, Shu Mountain. He even truly stepped onto the path of immortal cultivation, although he wasn't very interested. However, it seemed that most of the members in the group were very powerful, and many of them were immortal cultivators. Jing Tian pondered for a moment. He couldn't be a burden to the group. Therefore, he might as well listen to the old man from Shushan and help him with some matters while cultivating. But he never thought that the old man from Shu Mountain was really an old silver coin. On the surface, he just gave him a box and asked him to send it to a certain place. In fact, a great devil was imprisoned in this box. But now, this demon had been released. Shu Mountain was in trouble, and the world was in great calamity. Jing Tian didn't want to save the world, but he felt that he couldn't. Later on, Jing Tian thought about it again, and could only ask the red-haired man for help. After all, that guy bragged so much about himself. He must be very strong, right? Not long after, Jing Tian found out that this red-haired man was one of the 6 realms, the demon lord of the demon realm, Chong Lu. But after finding him, this demon lord Chong Lu didn't intend to help him. He also said that he was the one who released the great devil. It was specially used to test him, so that he could recover the memories of his previous life and become the famous Fei Ping of the divine realm. When Jing Tian heard this, he was dumbfounded on the spot. So this is the demon lord? It was indeed evil. Helpless, Jing Tian left the fiend world. However, not long after he left, he discovered that the demonic world had changed greatly. That demonic lord Chong Lu had directly come to the human world. This made Jing Tian very surprised. He clearly said that he would not help him, but in the end, he came to the human world. Was he here to subdue that great devil? Thinking of this, Jing Tian was very excited. Immediately, he came to Mount Shu alone, the headquarters of the great devil. That's right, the Mount Shu Holy Land, which was said to be formed by Panga's heart, had long been occupied by that great devil. However, as soon as he arrived, Jing Tian did not see the scene he had imagined. It could even be said that it was completely out of his expectations. In the sky, giant golden figures that were as large as mirages stood in various places in the void like the gods and Buddhas of the heavens. At the same time, there was a cage that looked like a halo in the air. And in the center of the cage was that great devil, evil sword immortal. This evil spirit lifeform, which was said to be beyond the 6 realms, had actually been killed? Jing Tian's head was filled with question marks. In his heart, he was wondering if he didn't have to save the world. But when he looked at the other side, his heart sank. That was because Demon Lord Chong-Lu was also trapped in another halo. What's going on? Jing Tian muttered, that shouldn't be. What's wrong with evil sword immortal? Previously, when he made a bet with me, he was so arrogant and looked down on the living beings of the 6 realms. Why does he seem to have been caught? Who could be so capable? And Chong-Lu. At this moment, a man walked out of the void. The Son of Destiny is here? Jing Tian saw this man at first glance. His appearance was very strange. He was wearing an extremely simple robe. Jing Tian had never seen the style of the robe before. It was simple, but there were several kinds of gems inlaid on the robe that he had never seen before. He was very handsome, but Jing Tian had the illusion that he could not tell his age. He seemed very old, but also very young. But in the blink of an eye, he seemed to be similar to an ordinary person. This was very strange. Among the people Jing Tian had seen before, whether it was Demon Lord Chong-Lu, Evil Sword Immortal, Old Man Qingwei of Shu Mountain, or even the Celestial Emperor of the Heavenly Realm, their auras were very unique. But this man looked very strange. The man in the robe slowly landed next to Jing Tian and sized him up. I was wondering why you deviated from your original path. It turns out that you've changed in a certain long river of time because of a certain native heavenly god. TSK. Not bad, not bad. Jing Tian instinctively took a few steps back and picked up the demon sword in his hand. No, 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 this kind of thing is useless. The man in the robe smiled. I have no ill intentions towards you. To be precise, I'm here to help you. With that, the man in the robe pointed at Evil Sword Immortal behind him and said, Look, I've caught this great demon for you. Now you just need to take this sword and kill this guy. Who are you? Jing Tian frowned and said, You're not from this world? No, you're not human? Jing Tian had heard from Chong-Lu that although he had accidentally released this great demon, this was the fate of the 6 worlds. However, this was the calamity and fate of the 6 realms. Even if he did not release it, the great fiendish demon would have been released for certain reasons. This seemed to be the fate of this world. And he was the key to unlocking this fate, so Chong-Lu had refused to help him. At that time, Jing Tian thought that Chong-Lu was just looking for an excuse. But after thinking about it, it seemed very likely. That mysterious man had said the same thing back then. That mysterious man had said that the world would suffer a great calamity, and only he could save the world. At that time, Jing Tian had laughed and said, You're so strong. Since you know that the world will suffer a great calamity, why don't you take action? But that mysterious man had said, If I take action, I'll be violating the rules. Even if I can resolve this great calamity, there will be other great calamities. It might even cause a huge change in the world. Therefore, he had to do it himself. Jing Tian didn't know who that mysterious man was, but now it seemed that it was true. Human? I don't think you're human. The man in the robe laughed and said, I'm a god who can easily control your world. With that said, the man in the robe casually twisted his hand, and Evil Sword Immortal in the circle of light seemed to be caught by something, and was pulled in front of the man. Chapter 1841. Come on, kid, don't hesitate. Get rid of him. You're the savior of the world. The long-robed man pursed his lips at Evil Sword Immortal. This guy captured your family and friends and killed many people. You probably want to tear him to pieces now, right? Evil Sword Immortal's face flushed red, and he couldn't speak. His expression was a little ferocious and dazed, as if he was confused by what was happening. Jing Tian didn't make a move. He frowned and didn't relax at all. He had a feeling that there was something wrong with this long-robed man. But he seemed to be right. Should I make a move? Jing Tian fell into deep thought. The long-robed man didn't seem to be in a hurry as he waited quietly. He seemed very interested in this choice. After thinking for a long time, Jing Tian shook his head. Sorry, I can't kill him like this. Because if I do that, you'll actually be the one to kill him. Instead of being killed by me, I'm just a tool. I can't save this world. Hearing this, the long-robed man rubbed his chin, seemingly interested in this answer. Kid, look over there. The long-robed man pointed to the other side. That was Shu Mountain Square, where there were several towering stone pillars. Tied to the stone pillars were his best friends, his true love, whom he had met on this bumpy road. Whether or not I let him go, your best friends will all die. The long-robed man narrowed his eyes. What do you think is saving the world? Why didn't you hesitate when you went to this demon Lord Chong Lu to get him to deal with this great demon? In other words, you think that this great demon will be saved if this demon Lord Chong Lu kills him. Is that so? Then why are you saying this now? The great demon is clearly right in front of you, and you can kill him with just a raise of your sword, but you stopped? Your logic and reason don't make sense. The long-robed man sighed. Oh, then I'll get straight to the point. Jing Tian couldn't help but say, I suspect that you have a motive for doing this. To be honest, I don't believe that the world's calamity will disappear if I kill this great demon. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to Chong Lu for help. I think that whoever kills this great demon can save the world. We can save the world. But there's something wrong with you. If you want me to do this, there must be a reason. Therefore, I won't do that. After Jing Tian finished speaking, he retreated and pointed the demonic sword at the long-robed man. He was very vigilant. The long-robed man clicked his tongue and said, You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. I gave you a chance to become a god, but you didn't even take it. However, the child of destiny was indeed the child of destiny. Some of his thoughts were different from others. Born from the gathering of heaven and earth's fortune, it can correct the world's trajectory. Sigh, I originally wanted to get along with you as an ordinary person. Since that's the case, I won't pretend anymore. The long-robed man smiled and said, I am a god from outside your world. I wanted to give you a good fortune, but you are still so cautious. As he spoke, the man waved his hand lightly, and Evil Sword Immortal turned into a ball of faint purple light. It was as if he had returned to his initial dark spirit state. Jing Tian's pupils constricted when he saw this scene. Right now, you have two choices. The robed man pointed at the others again. Look, the calamity of this world has already disappeared. You can choose to come with me. I will give you a great opportunity so that you can become a supreme existence in the universe, not in this small 6 realms. The second choice? Then don't blame me for directly destroying your world. Jing Tian's eyelids twitched. He dared to. If this guy said it, he would definitely do it. Wait, this style of doing things. Isn't this the target of the Hunt God event? Jing Tian suddenly thought. Could this long-robed man be the target? In that case, I can summon the ancestor god legitimately? Thinking of this, Jing Tian's heart trembled. Previously, because there were too many things and the changes were too fast, he found it difficult to accept for a while, so he didn't have much energy to brag in the chat group. He could only occasionally idle and chat, but he would soon be pulled away by many things in reality. Not to mention getting a response from the ancestor god. Now, this seemed to be an opportunity? So, this is how you captured Chong Lu? Jing Tian said unhurriedly. That's right. The long-robed man looked at Chong Lu. This guy is much more powerful than you, but he's not the child of destiny of this world. He also has the stench of another great world on him. He must have gone to another great world to cultivate. In essence, he has exceeded the limits of your world. I was excited to see him and wanted to help him, but in the end, this guy is worse than you." Speaking of this, the long-robed man shook his head, as if he felt it was a pity. If such a seedling could be subdued, it would be a great help. "Don't sigh," Jing Tian suddenly said with a smile. "I know Demon Lord Chong Lu's bad temper. He is the supreme of a world. He is used to being arrogant and domineering. He won't care who you are." "Oh!" The long-robed man looked at Jing Tian with some surprise. "So, you plan to go with me?" When Jing Tian heard this, he immediately looked up at the sky and said, "Actually, it's not that I don't want to go with you, but I already have a god that I believe in. If I leave like this, when that god descends with thunder and fury, I'm afraid I won't live long." "I know." The long-robed man smiled faintly. "Not only do I know the god that you believe in, but I also know that you haven't become his believer yet. No, even if you become his believer, it doesn't matter." Jing Tian's heart skipped a beat. He pretended not to know anything and asked, "What do you mean?" "The god that you believe in uses a divine technique that has already been eliminated." The long-robed man sneered. "You don't have a divine imprint on your body. You also didn't receive the gift of divine power. It's impossible to become a true believer just by relying on faith alone. Look, you are so weak now. No matter how weak a god's believer is, he won't be like you." Jing Tian looked at the long-robed man. "Why do I feel that you don't look like a god? There are many kinds of gods. It doesn't matter if you look like one or not, as long as you are strong enough," the long-robed man said. "Otherwise, you can call your god out. This god can show you what the power of a true god is." Jing Tian hesitated for a moment and looked at the long-robed man. He seemed to be very arrogant. It seemed that he was really strong. But he is so talkative. Compared to the ancestor god, he doesn't seem like a god at all. Could it be a trap? Jing Tian's mind spun rapidly. To trick the ancestor god out? His real goal was to deal with the ancestor god? Maybe I'm overthinking. Jing Tian looked at the long-robed man and said, "In that case, I will call the god that I believe in." The long-robed man waved his hand and made an inviting gesture. Jing Tian took a deep breath. At this moment, his mind was completely immersed in the scripture of the great Tao God summoning chapter. "Ancestor God, if you don't help me this time, I can go to another sect. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep my life." Chapter 1842. Jing Tian didn't know if calling the ancestor god would work at this time. But he had no other choice. Gradually, Jing Tian felt that his spirit seemed to have entered another world. He saw endless stars. A golden sun hung in the vast starry sky. Below was a vast land. It seemed to be shining on the universe. Even a tree seemed to be as big as a world. When he fell, a single leaf could carry thousands of him. In the gaps, Jing Tian saw a majestic shadow. He was shocked. It was also at this time that Jing Tian suddenly opened his eyes. He saw the sky and clouds. The shadow in the depths of his consciousness appeared in his sight. Jing Tian was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect to call the ancestor god at this time. Unlike the other group members, many of them relied on the sacrifice of certain offerings to get a response from the ancestral god. Jing Tian felt a little ashamed. But at this time, Jing Tian didn't intend to think about this. He turned around and looked at the mysterious man in the robe. He immediately felt confident. "My god is here," Jing Tian said loudly. The man in the robe smiled and looked at the shadow in the sky. There was a meaningful smile on his face. "I've long heard that the indigenous gods have been getting more and more arrogant recently. I didn't expect that they had secretly learned from our god system universe." The man raised his eyebrows and looked at the shadow. "You indigenous gods have always been arrogant. You're afraid of our god system universe but don't want to learn. However, you're tough and won't submit. No wonder you made such a big noise when you went up. Humph, you're the ancestor god who has been making a lot of noise recently, right? As soon as he finished speaking, the man in the robe disappeared. In an instant, the shadow suddenly appeared. The space was distorted and the world changed. It seemed to be changed and imprisoned by some powerful rules. Our God system universe includes all the great Daos of the universe. You indigenous gods are so arrogant. Do you really think we can be controlled by you at will? The man in the robe didn't show up, but his voice enveloped the world. It was soul-shaking. At the same time, a mysterious origin sword appeared between heaven and earth. That component had supreme power and brilliant momentum. The universe changed color because of it. The origin of the sword. At this time, Wang Feng, who appeared here, looked at the latter with some interest. The origin of the universe was very complicated. Some were created by universe-level life forms themselves, and some were formed by great life forms. There were no rules or definitions. The origin could be everything. However, there were very few origins that could connect with the will of the universe. In essence, there were too many different types of origin source. If it was divided into levels, there would at least be dozens of levels, if not hundreds. The great world had its own origin, and the small world had its own origin. For example, in the Douluo world, if one could surpass level 100 and comprehend the origin, it would be the origin of a small world. From there, he could enter the Douluo divine realm to cultivate the origin power that he had comprehended and become stronger. There were even more types of origins in small worlds. They were usually formed by the fusion of power, life, will, and many other things. It contained a powerful spirit that could break free from the restraints of the world's rules and even reach the ability to change the world. Comparatively speaking, the origins of the great worlds were even more powerful. They could easily destroy many worlds. Further up was the origin of the universe. The origin of the universe was related to the will of the universe. The origin of the universe was very simple. It was either comprehended by some extremely talented Almighty after countless years of spiritual comprehension of the will of the universe. It was either inherited or obtained by a heaven-defying opportunity. There was also a situation where it was cultivated. Wang Feng had done in-depth research on origins. When he had nothing to do, he would use the primordial origin to deduce origins. Combining his own experiences and knowledge, he had a rough idea of the origin system. And among them, some origins were very strange. This kind of origin had an extremely high upper limit and an extremely low lower limit. The lower limit could be comprehended by the experts of the small world, but it could grow to the origin of the universe and even touch the will of the universe. The origin of swords. The sword itself was just a weapon. However, in the universe there were countless lives studying and learning this special weapon. They could comprehend the origin from it, and the sword itself contained countless branches of origins. As the origin of the great Tao that countless lives pursued, Wang Feng hadn't seen many experts who used swords. This kind of origin of the great Tao that contained many variables seemed to have never disappeared in any universe. There were even many pursuers. Origins are divided into strong and weak. Wang Feng sensed that this god belonged to an unknown faction. He stared at the origin sword. It wasn't a sword. It was a divine sword of faith condensed from the faith of countless clans and various sword Tao origins. To put it simply, that sword was the god domain of that god. He refined his god domain into the shape of a sword. If one entered the origin sword, they would enter another world. Wang Feng was quite interested. He felt that he might have met an elite of the god system universe. Therefore, an elite was naturally an expert who could stand out among those heavenly gods, stand out from the masses, and have a unique understanding of their own system. Using the sword as a god domain. It was condensed from the power of faith. As long as the clans in the Origin Sword God domain were not destroyed, and his believers were not destroyed, his sword would never be broken. At the same time, Wang Feng could sense that there were at least 5 types of powerful sword Dao origins in the Origin Sword. All of them contained very powerful killing power. Most likely, they were all extremely aggressive and destructive origin sources. It seems that the elites of the God System universe are still something. They can mix all of these together. Wang Feng sighed. Unfortunately, although the upper limit of most Sword Dao origins was extremely high, there were very few who could touch the will of the universe. The essence of a battle between heavenly gods was actually the collision of faith. But if it was a pure collision of faith, it would be difficult to determine the winner. Although Wang Feng had some understanding of the system of the God System universe, he still knew too little about other aspects of the God System universe. Wang Feng had never been to the God System universe, so he didn't understand the civilization there, nor did he understand the distribution of strength there, nor did he understand the system's improvement methods, as well as other methods to become stronger and so on. Now that he saw this special expert who used the God domain as a sword, Wang Feng was a little surprised. Humph! The Origin Sword transformed into a world. As the light gathered and scattered, it rushed out of the world and enveloped the entire universe. It absorbed the origin energy of the universe world. Without any hesitation, that sword slashed down at Wang Feng. For such an expert, all his means were condensed in the Origin Sword. Any one of his swords could slash through the universe and destroy countless worlds. There was no need for unnecessary operations. Chapter 1843. It seems that he was waiting for me. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes. When the sword came, the world was still. However, Wang Feng knew that outside this world, darkness had descended, and billions of stars had shattered. The god opposite him had obviously come prepared. It was possible that Jing Tian was not the one he was using. Judging from his arrogant and ignorant appearance, he probably just wanted Jing Tian to call him out. However, if that's all, it may be a little difficult to deal with me, Wang Feng murmured. No matter how powerful the origin was, it could be said that the origin sword in front of him represented the strongest power of the origin. However, it was still thousands of miles away from the will of the universe. However, on second thought, although most of the gods in the divine system universe did not have the true will of the universe, they had the projection of the will of the universe. They also had 70 to 80% of the power of the will of the universe. He did not use the projection of the will, only the origin. Could it be testing me? Wang Feng said slowly. Are you trying to test me to see if I can snatch his source energy? Wang Feng thought for a long time. He stood in place, motionless. The majestic shadow seemed to be connected to heaven and earth. The origin sword slashed straight down, but it passed through the shadow without a trace of light. Huh! A slightly astonished voice was heard. It seemed that the god had not expected this to happen. With such means, you are not even qualified for me to look down on you, Wang Feng said lightly. Heh! The mysterious voice came from an unknown void. It was impossible to sense where it came from. Then, the origin sword slashed toward Wang Feng. The sky cracked, and the brilliance of the universe began to dim. This world protected by the laws seemed to be unable to bear such a powerful pressure. However, after several slashes, it still could not take away Wang Feng's figure. Finally, after a while, a low voice slowly sounded. You can control time? No, you can change time. Interesting. In my rules, you can even easily change time. This is not something a native heavenly god can do. Are you modifying the river of time? Let my divine sword of faith slash at the present where you don't exist forever. Wang Feng said nothing. He had some comprehension. Right now, he had too many powerful abilities. With the strength of his initial wheel soul, He could easily enter the long river of time in this universe and erase his imprint. It seemed like he was still in this moment. In fact, he had already left this universe and was no longer in this space. Simply put, he was always in the future. What Feng Yuan slashed down with his sword was always the present that did not exist. If the other party was unable to jump into the long river of time and wanted to use a mere origin to deal with him, the other party would not be able to do so. It was almost impossible. The river of time was no stranger to any universal-level life form. Once a universal-level life form jumped into the river of time, they would have to bear the great power and karma of the river of time. As time passed, it would definitely affect his body. Moreover, in the long river of time, many powers were difficult to unleash. Interesting. Ha ha. All the origins related to time in the universe are extremely rare. However, this origin sword of mine can cut through the river of time. Do you think you can hide in time? A leisurely laugh came from the void. In the next moment, the origin sword seemed to be changing its form. In an instant, it was formless and invisible, as if it had disappeared. However, if one sensed it carefully, they would be able to sense where it still existed. It was hazy and unfathomable. The origin of the Sword of Time. Wang Feng was slightly stunned. He could clearly see that in the universe, a majestic long river that existed in the void was suddenly slashed down by this divine sword. To be able to cut through the origin of the long river of time, this was not simple. Looks like he still has a backup plan? Wang Feng smiled slightly. Not bad. But it was very strong. A good origin. Such a powerful origin was really impressive. This natal sword actually contained such an origin source. Moreover, it actually had a sword Dao origin related to time. Regardless of whether this was a result of comprehension or a fortuitous encounter, it was enough to prove that this heavenly deity was extremely powerful. Looks like there are also some strong people in the God System universe. Wang Feng was not in a hurry. If the long river of time was cut off, his body of faith would be exposed. However, this did not matter. Even if the other party had cut off the long river of time, the initial wheel-time soul could come and go freely. It was not weak at all. However, once the long river of time was cut off, it meant that countless worlds would fall into a fault. Still not showing yourself? In the universe's starry sky, a divine voice came. The origin sword appeared and continued to attack Wang Feng as if it was tracking him. Where can you hide now? The mysterious God's spiritual divine voice came continuously from the universe. Since you want to test my strength so much, then I will be a little more serious, Wang Feng replied. After speaking, Wang Feng hid the body of faith and directly took out the Pangu axe. Under the initial wheel-time soul, Wang Feng held the Pangu axe true soul. The terrifying will of the universe spread from the axe to the entire soul. At this moment, the shocking will of cutting through the sky burst out. Wang Feng transformed into a majestic giant in the universe void. It was as if he could cut open the universe. His posture carried boundless power as he directly slashed toward the origin sword. Practically in an instant, the origin sword shattered into pieces. The terrifying will of splitting open the sky crushed everything in a crushing manner. No matter how much faith power, origin power, or God's minions the origin sword had gathered, it couldn't withstand this terrifying power at this moment. The will of splitting open the sky in the Pangu axe was the key to Wang Feng becoming a universe-level life form. Even if he had not obtained the origin tribulation godly king's will of the universe, Wang Feng believed that it could not be stronger than the will of splitting open the sky. The shattering of the origin sword meant that everything would be destroyed. This origin sword was an existence that gathered the godly domain, origin, faith, and many other things into one. It was powerful enough. If it was at the same level, it was basically invincible. In particular, he had not shown his will projection. Wang Feng was sure that this guy was definitely hiding something. It was still hidden in the origin sword. However, Wang Feng did not intend to give the other party a chance to show this. He already knew the latter's approximate strength and such a powerful will. Wang Feng. Chapter 1844. 8 origins, shining with mysterious light, were bound in Wang Feng's palm. The origin sword was broken, and the god domain had collapsed. Conservatively speaking, the latter's strength would definitely be greatly reduced, let alone the heavenly god realm. Logically speaking, it was very difficult for the gods of the god system universe to be Wang Feng's opponent now. Unless there was a universe will that was comparable to him. Otherwise, all the laws in the universe would be in vain. 8 sources. I've gained a lot. Wang Feng counted the 8 sources in detail. Origins, even if it was the origin of a small world, were relatively precious, because as long as it involved the power of the source, one would be able to touch a broader world. What's more, there was a special source that was a mixture of sword, Tao and time. This level of origin source was very rare. However, this source, suddenly, Wang Feng stared at a certain source and frowned slightly. At this moment, a voice with a bit of anger sounded in the void. My source! How dare you destroy my god domain and steal my source? It was probably because this god had never thought of such a situation. It actually took a while to make a sound, but Wang Feng ignored it. At this moment, the low anger turned into a high-pitched roar. Damn it! Damn it! I will never forgive you! Wang Feng was still staring at the source in his palm. Suddenly, his palm moved, and he suddenly tossed out one of the origin cores. He threw it into the silent and shattered vast universe. In the blink of an eye, the brilliant light of the origin immediately turned into deep darkness. Then it shattered and exploded. Boom! The destruction that seemed to be able to sweep everything away swept in all directions from the center of the shattered source. Everywhere it passed, everything turned into nothingness. You still want to scheme against me? Wang Feng murmured. It seems that not only did you come prepared, but you also came to target me. Origin explosion. This was not a joke. Back then, Wang Feng used that life origin explosion to forcibly stop Mo Tiance, who was already a universe life form at that time. Even better, that source seemed to be particularly special. The power of the explosion was even stronger, but any universe life form would not be able to withstand it unless they were threatened with death. Otherwise, it was basically impossible for them to self-destruct to protect themselves. 8 sources seemed to be a lot. The god realm was also gone. However, Wang Feng knew that the god still had a powerful will projection that he had yet to use. He must have kept it as a last resort. Under such circumstances, there was only one possibility for him to detonate his origin source. He knew that his origin source would be taken away by him. This self-detonation would cause a great deal of damage to oneself. It seems like you are related to the Earth Spirit God. Wang Feng said slowly, your origin is now in my hands, and you even self-destructed one. Even if you have the true will of the universe, you are still not my match. Are you here to help the Earth Spirit God get back at him? There was only silence in the void. The world began to return to normal. It was as if he had returned to the world of the immortal sword from another dimension. On the Shushan Square, Jing Tian was dumbfounded. A battle between deities could last for eternity with a single thought. It was something that transcended the normal dimensions. Not to mention Jing Tian, even immortals would find it difficult to pry into it. For Jing Tian, the only thing he could see was that the sky and earth had changed. The sky and earth had turned pitch black. The world seemed to have sunk into endless darkness, with divine light flickering from time to time. Apart from that, he could also feel a terrifying will. It made his heart tremble. That was the wail of the universe collapsing and being destroyed. Even living beings could feel it. At this moment, when he saw the sky of the world again, he actually felt that the world was so beautiful. He looked at the sky and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the ancestor god was still here. Jing Tian knew that the ancestor god must have been fighting with that deity just now. He was naturally nervous. Now that he saw that the ancestor god was still here, he immediately felt relieved. The ancestor god was indeed strong. This deity is probably very strong and not ordinary. This is the first time I have seen the ancestor god fighting with another deity without a trace. As one of the first group members, Jing Tian naturally felt that every time the ancestor god made a move, it was earth-shattering. But this time, he couldn't see anything. If it was in the past, Jing Tian might not have thought of anything. But after being in the group for so long, his knowledge had increased a lot. Until now, the situation was probably much more complicated and difficult than the previous group members. I have troubled the deities. I hope the ancestor god is fine. Jing Tian prayed in his heart. At the same time, the void was silent for a long time before a divine voice leisurely sounded. It entered Wang Feng's soul. Tisk, tsk, formidable, formidable. I have seen many native deities, but you are probably the second one as formidable and cunning as you. That deity said with a smile. His smile was very relaxed. It was so relaxed that it was as though he was the victor. Wang Feng remained silent. I sandwiched the myriad annihilation origin between the 8 origins. Among them, there is also the incomparably powerful Sword of Time origin. When you seized the 8 origins, you did not pay attention to the Sword of Time origin. Instead, you noticed the myriad annihilation origin. Can you tell me how you discovered it? Oh right. Let me introduce myself. This deity is from Mo Ing Divine Academy. My name is Yuan. The deity who called himself Yuan said with a smile. It was as though he was an old acquaintance. Mo Ing Divine Academy? Wang Feng was slightly taken aback. Where the hell is this place? What does it have to do with me? Do I have a grudge with you? Wang Feng asked indifferently. Could it be related to the Earth Spirit God? He did not answer the latter's question. That's right. It's because of the Earth Spirit God. Yuan was not in a hurry. Instead, he answered rather sincerely, before the Earth Spirit God became a heavenly god, he was a student of Mo Ing Divine Academy. His gravity Earth origin is a powerful origin he obtained from Mo Ing Divine Academy. I'm here to take back the gravity Earth origin that you've taken. If that was the case, Wang Feng understood everything. However, at the same time, a figure appeared in the void. It was Yuan. Now, can you tell me how you discovered it? Yuan asked. Didn't you already tell me? Wang Feng asked. What do you mean? Yuan did not understand. Because this deity is formidable, Wang Feng said indifferently. It's precisely because this deity is formidable that I discovered it. Yuan. In fact, Wang Feng had discovered that there was something strange about the origin. It was somewhat related to the origin tribulation origin. The other reason was probably because Wang Feng thought that everything was going too smoothly. There was a trick involved. This guy was still roaring furiously back then, and it was to divert his attention. He wanted him, the victor, to divert his attention and humiliate him. However, Wang Feng was not interested in that. It's fine if you don't say it. Yuan smiled. Chapter 1845. You seem to be very happy? Wang Feng's eyes flashed. It seems that these 8 origins and the god realm in your origin sword are nothing to you? Be reasonable. If an ordinary god suffered such a huge loss, their hearts would have died long ago. Wang Feng didn't expect this guy to still be able to laugh. That's not it. These 8 origins and the god realm were all cultivated by me over the years. Yuan said lightly. Wang Feng looked at him. This god from the god system universe was a little different. He had a feeling. It seemed that the other party was not only not disheartened by this result, but also quite happy. But the other party didn't say much. Since you have won, then I am willing to admit defeat. Whatever you want, it's fine. Yuan looked at Wang Feng and smiled. If you want to kill this god, come at me. Tell me, why does the Menjiang God Palace want to deal with me? Wang Feng asked slowly. A school that cultivates gods in the name of God Palace. This god doesn't believe that they would come to deal with a god who is about to participate in the god war just for an earth spirit god. Could it be that as long as the students of your god palace get into trouble outside, you will seek revenge? If so, I am afraid that your god palace will offend many god systems. The god system universe wasn't a simple universe. There were many factions here. If a school that mainly cultivated gods dared to participate in the various god factions, it would be difficult for it to survive. What's more, even in the god system universe, it was not rare for gods to die. In the entire god system universe, there were countless battles. Every day there were gods dying. The students of the Menjiang God Palace couldn't all be peerless geniuses. Casualties were inevitable. Moreover, as long as one became a god and graduated, it was considered leaving the school. How could the academy come to seek revenge for a student? Unless this student was the trump card of the Menjiang God Palace. However, Wang Feng didn't think that the Earth Spirit God was a trump card that could stand proudly in the God system universe. At most, it was at the middle level. I don't know about that. Yuan didn't answer Wang Feng's question. But for the Palace of Shadows to take action, and for me to take action personally, it must be because those old fogies felt the pressure from above. Are you very powerful? Wang Feng looked at Yuan in confusion. He seemed to be very arrogant. Very trashy, Yuan said bluntly. Compared to a native heavenly god like you, of course I'm trashy. Wang Feng nodded. He did not expect there to be such a self-aware god in the god system universe. Not bad. However, the Shadow God Palace might send some other gods to deal with you. Of course, he might just say that he wants to find the source that you took away. Yuan continued, so, you have to be careful from now on. Wang Feng looked at the latter with even more surprise. You are a god of Mo Ying's divine palace. Not only did your mission fail, but you are also reminding me out of kindness? Aren't you afraid that the divine learning palace will punish you? Yuan laughed. If you don't kill him, I'm leaving. With that, he disappeared into the void. Interesting. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. This Yuan was somewhat interesting. He took 8 of his source and his divine realm was gone, but he did not seem to hate him at all. He did not want to get back at him. Instead, he reminded him and told him about Mo Ying's divine learning palace. Could he be a spy in the divine learning palace? Wang Feng shook his head slightly. He did not intend to analyze the entanglement. However, there was a very important piece of information from Yuan's mouth. The divine learning palace was pressured by the higher-ups to take action. If that was the case, then it was correct. This meant that Mo Ying's divine learning palace did not intend to take action. Or they did not have much desire to take action. It was just that they were pressured by a god with an extremely high status in the god system universe, so they immediately took action. It seems that I can only counter soldiers with arms and water with an earth weir. Wang Feng shook his head. The day of the God War was getting closer and closer. Only 5 of the 9 paths of his ancestral realm had yet to be established. Moreover, as the God Hunt event unfolded, especially after the 2 children of destiny, Su Fan and Han Li, the power of faith that was produced every moment began to increase greatly. It must be the other believers of the group that were working hard. Among them, the world where the power of faith came from the most was not the world where Cao Cao and Ying Jing were. Instead, it was the world where Yi Fan was. The potential of that world was slowly being unearthed. In fact, the world where Shao Sun was producing more and more power of faith. In a few days, with the enhancement of the primal chaos green lotus, Wang Feng would probably be able to create the next reincarnation. Oh right, Jing Tian. Wang Feng looked at Jing Tian, and then looked at the sky outside the sky. Shatter, shatter, shatter. After all, it was a unit universe. It was so fragile. If he was not careful, it would collapse. Forget it. Wang Feng flicked his finger and shot out a beam of divine light, which flew toward the sky. In an instant, the vast universe that had been shattered by the primal chaos sword and the explosion of the origin began to recover. Let's follow the original trajectory, Wang Fengxin said. This immortal sword world still had a god world. If there were no accidents, the situation just now would be like this. Not to mention this world, the god world would collapse, and all the living beings would be lost with the destruction of the universe. When the battle between the universe heavenly gods of the divine system became serious, this kind of unit universe that had not been blessed with the laws of the gods could easily be shattered. Especially that Yuan, who was actually not weak. Wang Feng felt that he should be considered quite powerful among those heavenly gods. Jing Tian did not feel anything. He just felt that the sky was even bluer. Reporting the information of the invaders is meritorious. You are rewarded with 100,000 points and an origin. The origin is very powerful to you. You need to spend more time to comprehend it. Wang Feng looked down from the sky and announced indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Feng's palm trembled slightly, and an origin descended. It seemed to be wrapped in 5-colored divine light and fell on Jing Tian's body. A special sword-shaped imprint was imprinted between his eyebrows. This thing was one of the 8 kinds of origin that he had just obtained. Actually, to Wang Feng, of these 8 kinds of origin, except for the time sword origin that was related to the will of time, Wang Feng did not care about the rest. But he did not care about them. Putting them in the prize pool of the God of Hunt event or as a reward would be of great use. They could rapidly increase the combat power of these children of destiny. Moreover, some of these 8 origin belonged to the origin of small worlds, which was just right for Jing Tian, a child of destiny in a world like the immortal sword world. Thank you, ancestral god. Jing Tian was stunned at first, then he was overjoyed. He announced in his heart that from now on, the ancestral god was the only god in his heart. Not only was he strong, but he was also so generous. I didn't do anything. I just summoned the ancestral god and got 100,000 points? And there was such a powerful origin. Chapter 1846. Jing Tian suppressed the excitement in his heart and began to calculate. This was the first time in his life that he had become rich overnight, and Jing Tian felt very strange. He felt that he could now understand how the 2 group members felt when they obtained points. And the origin is such a powerful power, and it starts at a few million points in the activity pool. This is equivalent to the ancestral god rewarding me with over 1,000,000 points. Jing Tian sighed. The ancestral god was too generous. However, he felt that the origin in his body seemed to be in a half-sealed state. It might take some time to unleash its power. But that wasn't important. By the way, where's the evil sword immortal? Jing Tian looked around. The evil sword immortal had been destroyed by that mysterious god in one move. But Jing Tian knew that a special existence like the evil sword immortal was generally very difficult to destroy. That god had only beaten the evil sword immortal back to his original form and turned him into an evil spirit. Logically speaking, he should still exist. I've taken the evil spirit away. This thing isn't a mixed ability and you can't destroy it. At this moment, the ancestral god transmitted a divine voice into Jing Tian's mind. Jing Tian was enlightened. So that's how it was. That's great. Jing Tian heaved a sigh of relief and thought for a moment before saying, Ancestral god, what about the calamity of my world? Is there any other calamity? Yes and no. Wang Feng answered simply. What a joke. In the battle just now, Yuan had used the origin sword to directly cut the long river of time in this universe. It disturbed the original trajectory of the universe, causing the world Jing Tian was in to deviate from its original direction. How could there be any calamity? If there was a calamity, those gods were the greatest calamity for this universe. And according to Yuan, there might be more gods sent by the Shadow Palace in the future. Wang Feng gave Jing Tian so many good things not only because Yuan was extremely important, but also because he hoped that Jing Tian, the son of destiny, could grow quickly. He didn't hope that Jing Tian could resist those gods. Instead, he wanted to stall for time so that he wouldn't be killed by those gods immediately. After all, even if he was the son of destiny, the huge difference in life level made it difficult for Jing Tian to become a universe-level life form in a short time. You should cultivate well. Remember, don't be alone. In your own world, there are many capable people. If we grow together, we won't be helpless if we encounter such a situation again. Wang Feng casually instructed before disappearing from the immortal sword world. Jing Tian was left alone to ponder. Understood. Jing Tian nodded heavily. God System Universe. In an unknown nebula. Phew, from today onwards I'm free. In the vast starry sky, a plain-looking divine ship drew a gauze-like orbit in the starry sky. His speed was not fast. There was only one person on the boat. At the bow of the ship, Yuan was leisurely lying on a throne. Come to think of it, that native god is really strong. He even shattered the great Emperor Origin sword. That axe was definitely not an ordinary Cosmos god weapon. It was most likely some kind of Origin Wheel Saint weapon. However, how could an Origin Wheel Saint weapon recognize a heavenly god as its master? How strange. Yuan lay on his back and looked at the magnificent scenery of the universe. Even a heavenly god wouldn't be able to unleash the power of an Origin Wheel Saint weapon. And that instantaneous burst of Cosmos will is really terrifying. It contains the ultimate power of destruction. I wonder what kind of Cosmos will it is, Yuan muttered to himself as he muttered to himself. After muttering for a while, his expression changed and he put on a smile. No matter what, I finally got rid of the Menjing Divine Academy. I was trapped in the Menjing Divine Academy by the great Emperor Origin sword for tens of thousands of years. I worked hard without complaint. F***ck. Now that the great Emperor Origin sword has been destroyed, those old guys won't be able to track me. Suddenly, Yuan sat up and said while holding his chin, that native god is involved in many things. Those old guys won't be able to predict that even the great Emperor Origin sword would be destroyed. My plan is good. Whether I win or not, I won't lose anything. Next, I should leave this God System universe and go to other universes to take a look. I'm really tired of this broken place. Yes. I also wish that native God will be safe in the future. None of this has anything to do with me. Yuan revealed a treacherous smile. But at this moment, in the void, a divine voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Ling Yuan, the most powerful god in the Menjing Divine Academy. Tens of thousands of years ago, he inherited the divine item left behind by a supreme god, the great Emperor Origin sword. He was born with 2 divine domains and inherited the will of the supreme god. In this generation, among all the gods in the God System universe in the past 100,000 years, he is considered one of the top gods. However, you, who shone in the Menjing Divine Academy tens of thousands of years ago, have disappeared in the past 10,000 years and stayed in the Menjing Divine Academy. Now, after 10,000 years, you have been given an important task, but you want to escape halfway. Interesting. It seems that the quality of teaching in the Menjing Divine Academy has declined a lot in these years. The low and hoarse voice immediately refreshed Yuan. He looked forward with a serious expression. A shadow appeared out of nowhere. Who are you? Yuan asked in a low voice. But just as he finished asking, he seemed to have thought of something and subconsciously took 2 steps back. Did you secretly let those old guys take action? Otherwise, according to the rules of the Menjing Divine Academy, the gods who have finished their apprenticeship will not take action when their origin is snatched. The Menjing Divine Academy has almost never interfered in any battles between other factions, not to mention others. Yuan knew that those old guys in the Menjing Divine Academy were willing to let him take action personally. It was definitely not something an ordinary god could do. Even the supreme gods of those factions might not be able to order those old guys around. Snatching the origin of the Earth Spirit God was just a simple excuse. The other party must be from the God System universe, backed by the Primal Cosmos God faction, and had a lot of power. Only then could it be possible. Yuan was born in the God System universe, and it had been more than 20,000 years. But the factions in the God System universe were very complicated, and even he could not distinguish them, because the power involved in gods was too strong. Once one reached this level and comprehended some powerful power, he could create his own faction and stand alone in the God System universe. Of course, that was only possible for some prodigies and deities to achieve. But there were many gods in the God System universe. There were too many of them, and there were many proud gods too. In addition, the system was perfect and the framework was fixed. It could always nurture batch after batch of powerful gods. This resulted in the current situation where there were many factions in the God System universe. But no matter how many factions there were only a few factions that could have a primal cosmos god. Chapter 1847. It was also the oldest faction and the ruler of the Divine System universe. These ancient factions were extraordinarily powerful. For ancient sects like the Shadow God Palace, it would only take an instant for them to be destroyed. Yuan did not dare to delay. He stopped the divine ship and waited. He wanted to see what the other party wanted to do. "You're leaving just like that?" asked the Shadow. "I've failed. What else can I do?" Yuan replied. "That native god is too strong. I'm not his match." "What a joke." The Shadow sneered. "Twin divine regions are rare even in the Divine System universe. Not to mention that the great Emperor Origin Sword is the legacy of a supreme god. You're already the strongest in the Mo-ing Divine Academy. How could you lose so easily? Even the great Emperor Origin Sword is gone? I think you're using this as an excuse to leave the Mo-ing Divine Academy." "Humph. Back then, when you were still in the Mo-ing Divine Academy, you swore a divine oath to protect the Academy for 100,000 years unless the Origin Sword is broken. You can't leave until you become a supreme god. Now that the great Emperor Origin Sword is broken, according to the divine oath, you can leave the Mo-ing Divine Academy freely. Do you dare say that you've used your full strength?" Every sentence of the Shadow seemed to contain a power that could shake one's soul. It was as if the entire nebula had stopped. Yuan frowned slightly. He did not expect the other party to know so much. One had to know that when he obtained the great Emperor Origin Sword, only a few old guys were present. The sword was of great importance. At that time, the Mo-ing Divine Academy would not easily give it to him when he was still a fake god. Yuan fell silent. After a long time he said, "Even if I used all my strength, I could not defeat that native god." The Shadow glanced at him, as if to ask what had happened. "I held back, but I know that he held back too," Yuan said slowly. "Tell me the details of the battle," said the Shadow. Yuan was slightly startled. He roughly understood that this mysterious big shot might not be interested in him. Instead, he was interested in that native god. The reason why he hugged her was because he wanted to know the situation at that time. After figuring this out, Yuan smiled slightly and explained the situation at that time. It seems like he has become a lot stronger, Ying muttered. Abyss looked at Shadow with a puzzled expression. That murmur seemed to be the words of a god from an extremely ancient era in the god system universe. At certain times, this kind of divine words possessed an extremely heaven-defying power. However, it was only passed down in the most ancient factions. Yuan had heard about it in some ancient books in the Divinity Palace. Unfortunately, it was impossible to learn the godly words. Even if one learned it, only the most ancient gods had the qualifications to speak of it. It was very unique. According to the research of those old fellows, those words contained some kind of powerful universe will. Yuan could basically confirm that the people in the shadows must have come from those ancient factions. God, is there anything else? Yuan bowed and asked. I have already told you everything that happened back then, so this matter really doesn't concern me. I'm bound to lose, but I want to lose miserably. Shadow laughed. Miserably? The great Emperor Origin sword contains the will of a paramount god, and the great Tao of Origin is unknown. The origin you left in the great Emperor Origin sword is only 10 or 20%. In addition, the twin divine domains have always been difficult to cultivate. Although heavenly gods are invincible in the same realm, it is difficult to reach the paramount god level. You broke through one domain and transferred most of your divine power of faith to the other. With the superposition of the two domains, your divine power of faith increased greatly. Soon, you will reach the threshold of the paramount god level. Not only can you use this opportunity to leave the Shadow Divinity Palace, but you can also break through and rebuild. This plan is somewhat similar to when you led the Divinity Palace alone in the past. Very well, you may leave. The Shadow said indifferently. Yuan thought for a moment and said, I feel that the native god is very unusual. Shadow looked at him again. Before I came, I had the idea of breaking the great Emperor Origin sword. But in fact, I know it is impossible. What do you mean? Shadow asked. You may not know much about the great Emperor Origin sword, Yuan said slowly. But I've had it for so many years, and I know that it's very useless. Not to mention breaking it, only a paramount god can do it personally. You think that it is a divine treasure left behind by the paramount god. In fact, it contains the paramount god's will. Although it is just a remnant will, the origin sword is difficult to break. Even if the universe collapses and my body is destroyed, the origin sword will be difficult to break. My original plan was to throw the great Emperor Origin sword out during the battle, and not pick it up. Yuan coughed a few times and said, The paramount god must know that this is extraordinary and will use it. So I pretended to hide a origin sword that was about to explode in the great Emperor Origin sword to test the paramount god's strength. Then, I pretended to be seriously injured and left. This way, the great Emperor Origin sword would be left behind, leaving a trace for the Shadow Divinity Palace. I can let them know the universe coordinates of the native heavenly god. It will be worth it for them. However, I did not expect that the paramount god would break the great Emperor Origin sword. At that time, I wanted to use the Origin sword to explode. In fact, I wanted to take back the great Emperor Origin sword and the Tao Origin sword. However, the paramount god noticed it and took the broken great Emperor Origin sword and the Origin sword. Yuan said in a low voice, I have studied the great Emperor Origin sword for tens of thousands of years. Although I have inherited some of its power, I know that there are some secrets that I have yet to unravel. It seems to be related to a few ancient factions. After all, Utmost being Dihong was from that faction back then. After saying that, Yuan stood up and left. He immediately drove the flying ship and disappeared without a trace. Interesting, the Shadow mumbled. On the other side, in the chat group, after Jing Tian tidied everything up, he immediately rushed to the chat group. It had been so many days. He could finally hold his head high. Without thinking, he immediately sent a message. Forever Peace Pawn's employee. Everyone, from today onwards, I have also become a believer of the ancestral god. Moreover, I'm also a person with points now. Hee, not only that, you guys might not know what the ancestral god has given me. Ancient. JPG. 2 She Ancient Emperor Jade. Che. Don't believe. JPG. Fan Yi. Che. Little employee, what good things could the ancestral god give you if you are worthy? Even if I give you a fart, you'll probably benefit endlessly. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.